And welcome to the Everyday Board Game Podcast with your hosts, Daniel.
And Daniel.
Daniel, it's been a while since I've seen you.
Yeah, it's been...
nearly a little more than 24 hours.
Yeah.
A whole
24 hours.
We're about, 27 hours, give or take?
Yeah, and the thing about it is, too, we're seeing more of ourselves or each other this week than we should be actually spreading out our time with each other because we're about to spend a whole week together.
Right. You'd think, we're trying to catch up, right? Because we're going to give you exclusive Gamma coverage. And by exclusive, I mean there's about 200 other podcasts that are doing it too.
Oh, yeah.
But,
we got into the first media program at Gamma, so we're going to get access. I forgot to mention this to you before we started the podcast, but I'll tell it to you now. Because I believe this is going to air the week before we go. We have a meeting set up with the company that makes Distilled.
Ooh, very cool.
At Thursday at 3 o'clock.
That works. You just tell me where and when, and I'll be there. I'm not going to remember it right now.
No, but I'm just saying. You're going to
have to tell me Wednesday at about 7 o'clock.
No, I'm just, and I'm going to give, you got to get access to the email.
Sure.
So I'm going to give you all that before you can get into it.
All right.
I did set it up because there was only one or a few time slots going, so I picked up the Thursday because I was going to ask you about it. I forgot to do it yesterday, and I was like, all right, let me just set it up, and then we'll go to the meeting and stuff like that. I even have our friend Dammit Dom, who's going to be going with us. He has been looped into it. I had it sent to his email as well.
Awesome. So I'm the creator of the podcast, and I am the last one to get access to the email.
Yeah, you're supposed to be the CEO of it, but the fact of the matter is you don't use our email. You rather do your personal email.
I have about 20 different emails that I have to manage already. So you can
Why
have
do you
this
have
one.
20 emails?
I have my business, I have my personal, I have my school, my work email, I have my my secondary, my backup email. Yeah, so it's like I got emails for days.
Well, that's your fault. You're supposed to be the point man, and that's why we need you to use the actual podcast email.
We'll do it. I will. I mean, I rarely send out any emails now regarding our podcast from our own. I handle that through
the thing is, too, with all the networking we're going to be doing here at Gamma now, it's just going to
escalate real fast.
It'd be better if it goes through our email.
Makes sense to me. Well, we want to welcome you guys, speaking of our podcast, to the podcast.
Yeah.
This is the whole point of why we're here today, and we have another one of our patented top 8 debates. Not patented. Patent pending.
Yeah, there you go.
Whenever we eventually submit it.
We pretty much own the copyright of it, but it's all...
we've been doing it for enough years where...
5 years we're getting ready to do.
We've been doing this so long that people now copy our segments.
Yeah.
Often.
Yeah, it's not even funny. Our two newest segments that we have done.
Yeah.
Our two newest segments that we did. Board Game Breakdown and Board Game Brainstorm. The fact that Board Game Geek actually had to change the name of their podcast when they realized, oh, wait, someone already does Board Game Breakdown. Yeah. That you take someone to interview who are talking about their designs and stuff like that. Hey, that sounds familiar. Oh, wait, we did that.
Yeah, we already kind of did that.
And then another one just recently, the Dice Tower is doing what we do for Board Game Brainstorm.
Yeah, it's kind of like...
Pick 6, I think is what it's called.
Pick 6, yeah, something silly.
Yeah, we only pick 5, but still.
No, they pick 6 collectively.
Yeah, I know. We do 10.
We do 10. We're 4 more. We're 4 better.
At most 10. At minimum 5.
Yeah, so take that, Dice Tower. Anyway, we might be part of their network at some point.
So let's be nice.
Dice Tower, you're cool. You're cool. We're friends here. No. Anyway, we're going to get into one of our top 8 debates today. We're going to be talking about the top 8 roll-in rights.
Yeah, and so it's funny mentioning that earlier. Mm-hmm. We had people that were discussing on our poll. Like I said, we always do. We put a poll up on the Board Game Revolution podcast, Board Game Revolution Facebook group that helps us with our tiebreakers and stuff like that. Someone was like, "Hey, are you going to do rolling rights or flipping rights?" And I'm like, no, we're probably going to save that for a different debate somewhere down the line. And people had put flipping rights on the poll.
Right.
And so I even just mentioned it to them. I'm like, it's fine. They can vote for it. We'll discuss it in our podcast.
Yeah, but we're specifically
doing rolling rights. We're only going to specifically deal with the rolling rights when it comes to the fan votes and stuff like that. And so that's what I mentioned to them. And honestly, they can vote for whatever they vote for. We know the 8 games that we're going to be working on anyway. So if they put a flipping right, the mechanisms are pretty close.
I mean, any of the verbing rights, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like drafting right, rolling right, flipping right, all of those things.
All those are basically the same thing.
They're functionally very similar. It's just a random allotment of whatever you do and you write down stuff because of it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, on BoardGameGeek.com, even you and I, multiple times were like, that's not a rolling right. There is no dice in that.
Exactly.
Why is that? Wait, what? Why?
Why? Why is that there? Yeah.
And we question a lot of it, and we'll point out some of them as we talk about it. But really, what we're going to be focusing on today is you got to have some dice and you got to have some paper that you're writing stuff on.
And when we get into the actual part of the podcast, I will read off what Board Game Geek says the definition is.
Yep.
For a roll and write. This way, you all have the basic understanding. But we like to shoot the breeze before we get into it and talk about certain things.
That's right. And before we get into that, we always like to have a sub-segment right before. Daniel, what have you been playing lately?
So, normally we do 2 games on this, and that's what the plan is. But I don't know if you're going to mention the other game that we played the same day we played my first game.
Nope.
The one that is...
2 that you and I have not played.
So, I want to mention this before we go. There was one game we played that night that you know which one I'm going to talk about.
Oh, this notorious one.
Yeah, okay. So our buddy said, hey, I got this game, and he listened to our podcast and knew the fact, and this is Gamehead Geek, knew the fact that there was a game that he needed to play that was not on Board Game Geek, which worked for your goals this year.
Right, so listeners of the podcast know I wanted to play a game on Board Game Geek before it's on Board Game Geek.
Yeah. And so he brought it over. He's like, I do need to get this played. It's on his shelf of obligation.
Yes.
And so he's like, I need to get this played before I can tell him how it is. He brought it over. As we're reading the rules, you and me look at each other like, wait, we've played this before.
Yeah.
And so, do I want to mention the name? I'm going to be nice.
We don't want to bring any more press to them.
Yeah.
But we could talk about the original game.
Yeah, the original game is Las Vegas.
Yeah, designed by Rudiger Dorn.
Yeah.
I think it came out in either 2011 or 2012, something like that.
You're rolling dice. You're trying to make the most money by having most of your dice on a certain card.
Yep.
And then you get either, if you're the only one there, you get all the money that's under it, or if you're the one that has the most there, you get the highest, or you get to choose which one you want. And you're basically playing until a certain threshold of money.
Yeah.
This game was a straight rip-off of it.
Right.
That's the best way to say it. It is a
really
1-for-1 ratio to this game. The only difference of it is they changed the numbers, they changed the name of it, but it basically played the same way. So
and they had one more set of dice than the standard version comes with. But I mean, honestly, guys, here's the thing. Now we're part of social media. We have an Instagram. We'll talk about that later. And we are active promoters of this. And I, as a game designer, stuff like this genuinely stresses me out because yes, you cannot copyright mechanisms. And we had a big discussion about this. And one of our friends, Damn It Dumb, he still is not totally certain on that. It's like, no, you can get away with it. That's the unfortunate truth of the fact. It's like,
as long as you're not using the assets from like artwork,
anything that's trademarked or intellectual
or the rule book, because the rule book can be trademarked because how it's written together.
It's like a book.
Yeah, and so other than that, you can't copyright mechanisms because we talked about monopoly and anti-monopoly and stuff like that.
Yep. Exactly, and it's an unfortunate thing that somebody could theoretically go copy a game, but then that's the thing. This is how we're gonna solve this problem. We're gonna tell you guys right now how this problem is gonna get solved. You're gonna call it out anytime you see that. You call them out on it.
Exactly.
If there is a game that you're like, wait, this is a copy of a game that's already on the market, you need to call them out on it, and you need to make it public that this is clearly what's happening.
We don't want to advertise the name of the game, but we're just letting you know there is a game out there that is a complete copy of Las Vegas.
Yeah. Another thing. And here's the thing. Here's the problem with this. Rudiger Dorn, who's the designer of it, this is how these designers make their living, is they design games, and they want to create new things. Any copies of it, even though technically it's legally allowed, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure Ravensburger is still going to pursue it, or Alea, whichever publishing company is doing it right now. I'm sure they're going to pursue it and once they're aware of it. But it's up to us to call it out on it.
Exactly.
And, we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe Hive Mind, they came up with almost an identical game. Somehow,
yeah.
I don't believe it's true, but let's give them the benefit of the doubt.
Especially how popular Las Vegas was for a while, too.
If you see anybody who plays a game that's just like that, tell them, hey, this plays just like Las Vegas. That's also in production. That came out first. Go support them. Yeah. Because if you like the game, then go support the original designer.
Exactly.
That's really what it comes down to. So call them out always on that. Don't give them the time of day.
After that negative note that we wanted to talk about, because we did want to talk about it. We forgot to talk about it on the last podcast. So.
Yep, we thought about it.
Yeah. So it's like, you know what? Let's just talk about this real quick. Get it out of the way. Yep. We're done. Let's talk about some fun stuff that we played that night.
Yeah, some good games.
So the one I picked, this one, is because, I love these Ameritrash, these grandiose games.
Yes, you do. Absolutely.
So we played a new restoration game called Thunder Road Vendetta. I've been wanting to try it. I was very hesitant. Well, I couldn't back it originally when it came out because there was other stuff that was out at the same time. I think it came out originally, like when it originally came out, I could have backed it then. It was November when that happened. Then they moved it to March, and there was already something that I was going to back then, and I didn't want to do like 2 really big Kickstarters at the same time. Yep. So I'm like, all right, that's fine. I won't do Thunder Road Vendetta. It looks cool, but it doesn't seem like it's right up my alley. Right. No, it is right up my alley.
Yeah, it really is.
I really did enjoy this one. It gives you that Mad Max feel where you're just basically racing. You're trying to shoot the other players, get them out of your way, trying not to crash into anything. It's straight up fun. When we talk about like some of the things, like is it fun to lose? Yeah, this is fun to lose. It's just fun to, chuck some dice and try to do some damage to another player or push them off the road or cause collisions, just cause chaos. There was a little hiccups when we first started. The rules weren't as clear as we thought. So, you know what we did? We put on Rodney Smith, got a clarification on certain things, and it made the game so much easier. We played it the first time, something happened. We were like, that can't be it, because we would have been out completely after like 10 minutes. Yeah,
player would have eliminated before like nearly their first turn.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, let's figure this out. We looked it up, and oh my god, it played so much better after we learned how everything needs to be done, because we were playing a rule wrong. We were giving more damage than we needed to give damage, especially for the crashes. All the crashes really do is move you around certain aspects. Right. I love the dice rolling aspect of it, because you just don't know where your car is going to end up. It can move forward in a crash, it can move backwards and get crashed, or it can be taken off the board because of a crash.
That's right.
And so I really do like that. Then you get your helicopter that comes out there, and you're trying to shoot someone. Like towards the end of the game when we were playing it, you and me were trying to take out Damn It Dom by shooting him with our helicopters, and our helicopters sucked. They didn't do a darn thing to it.
It's like hovered around him and like...
Two helicopters could not hit his car. That was what was hilarious about it.
It had a better chance of hitting each other.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it was a blast. I had a good time playing it. The shenanigans aspect of it, just the dice chucking and having fun with it. Thunder Road Vendetta, I probably will back it when it comes back on Kickstarter, I think in March, like right when we get back from Gamma, is when they're going to redo the Maximum Chrome again with another expansion. Hopefully they put it on GameFound so I could do stretch pay, but I doubt it. We'll see. But yeah, if you get a chance, check out the game. I really want to play with some of the other expansions, because everything I've heard about this game, the expansions just, send it to another level.
Yeah. All right, what I've been playing lately, there was a co-op game that I hadn't played in a while from our friends over at Smirk and Dagger Games. And now they've recently made a number of different cooperative games, and they're always kind of grandiose. But this one specifically has a tower right in the middle of the board that really brings it up. Yeah, and the components themselves are beautiful. This is a game where we are all marine biologists or people involved in the industry of saving wild animals out in the ocean, and unfortunately there has been a massive oil rig spill. Mm-hmm. So oil is spilling out. This is called the spill, by the way, if that wasn't obvious. Oil represented by dice are spilling out onto the board. There's a beautiful tower right in the middle that's an oil rig that you drop the dice down into, which will roll the dice and split them into 1 of 4 quadrants that you place onto the board based on their number and the corner that they're in. Now, when that happens, sometimes some of the marine life might get contaminated, and the way you lose is pretty simple. You might either either have 3 of the same type of animal or 1 of each of the 6 different types of animal in the sick bay. We always say that they die, but it's a little less morbid, I guess, that way. But your ultimate goal is you have, depending on whether you're playing easy, medium, or hard, is how many sets of those you need to save, how many oil dice you need to remove from the game, and completely take care of them. If you need to save certain number of contaminated animals, stuff like that. And there's a bunch of different conditions based on the card that you draw. We were doing really good, and then it escalated really fast in like 2 turns.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, as it normally does. We were like, all right, we're almost there. We have another set coming here. We'll probably do this on our next turn. And then like 6 outbreaks happened. I forget what they're called, but like spillouts, I think they're called. Something to that effect.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
if you have 6 or more at the end of a turn, and you lose, and we got like 8 all of a sudden. Like we had like 3, and then we got like 5 more all of a sudden really fast. It was really tough. But we had a blast. That was the first time that both of my fellow players that have played it had ever tried it before, and they absolutely loved it.
Nice.
So I enjoyed it, and it was lucky that, unfortunately, it wasn't lucky, but unfortunately we had a really slow day at the shop. But that was my opportunity to sit down and actually play with them and get some more fun going, and yeah, they enjoyed the experience, and
nice.
We had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm thinking about probably having you bring that over when it's one of my picks, because I figured maybe teaming it up with Daybreak.
Ooh, that Daybreak would be fun on that.
Yeah.
We could just talk about all kinds of natural disasters.
Yeah. Or
real world ones.
Not even natural disasters, because that isn't natural. That's man-made disasters.
Well, true. That's true. We can find a lot of man-made cooperative.
Yeah.
Like, we done messed up.
Hot Shots would be another good one.
Oh, Hot Shots would be oh, yeah. Man.
Natural or man-made disasters, co-ops.
Man, now you got me thinking of what other co-ops that have that general theme. Ooh.
Yeah,
Ooh.
so, yeah, no, it'd be pretty cool. I like that idea.
I 100% agree with that.
I think, I already know what my next picks are going to be. I think it's going to be my Kinderspiels.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So, because I want to get Village big box to the table, I decided I was thinking Legends of Andor. We may do Legends of Andor on that one, but I was also thinking doing Challengers again.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
This way, do that Kinderspiel, and then this way I have enough time to try to get Isle of Skye big box off of my Shelf of Shame too.
Oh, that makes sense.
But yeah, I really do want to try this game. I still haven't played it yet.
Oh, you haven't played the spill? Mm-mm. Oh, goodness! I thought you did.
Nope, you've never brought it over.
Ooh. Yeah,
it could also be one of your picks, and I can pull Daybreak down.
There's only one bad thing about it, and it's a minor thing. It's not a big deal, but it's a minor thing that stresses just me out, is that it has to play 4 players.
So you always have to have someone else.
Yeah, and we played as 3, so I played the second character. Or it's kind of like a communal, like we all just decide what they do.
what they do, yeah. No, I get it. I understand why they do that.
Same as like Night Cage, and that does it too.
Oh, by the way, I saw you looking at the board. Do you see the new stuff I added to the board?
I have not, but I will look through it here very shortly.
I think you like the top 8 debate. June's the second one now.
Yes, okay. We could do that.
No,
we have enough now. Ooh.
Yeah.
All right.
June is the time to do it because that's when they announce it.
That's true. Ooh. But spoiler alert, we're going to tell you right now because I just saw it. It's going to be the Spiel winners in June that we're going to argue.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right.
Especially since we got the newest one. I still have to play Dwarf Romantic, but...
I'll bring it over one day.
All right, so my second pick here, I wanted to pull this one up. I wanted to talk about it today for one reason, too. We just recently played it. It was one of your goals this year. You get another check on your goals. One was a little bit of a half check, but you still get another...
question mark?
But this one does count. You said you wanted to play Twilight Imperium 4. I'm like...
We finally
this would probably be the best time for you to do it is in February when we're like in a bit of a lull when things are going. It's either this or the summer, so...
Yep, exactly.
We got a 3-player game of it. Unfortunately, our friend Gamehead Geek couldn't join us because his schedule changed, so he doesn't have Sundays off anymore. Because when we originally decided to do it on a Sunday, it was partially because that was one of your best days off, and it was his day off. And then they changed the schedule, so he couldn't get Sundays off anymore.
Yeah.
But we were like, we're going to keep it. We're going to play the 3-player game because this is a good opportunity for us to get it played. I haven't played it in 3 years. I own a copy of it. Haven't played it in 3 years. So I wanted to get it to the table. I really do like this game a lot. And this is Twilight Imperium 4th edition. shockingly enough, there was 2 players who've played it before. We have a basic understanding of the game. I did give myself a lot of refreshers. I did have to look up some stuff too. But we still got it done in 4.5 hours with 1 new player. It was phenomenal. I enjoyed the mess out of it.
And I gave y'all a run for your money, too.
And the thing is, the scores were actually really, really close.
They were very tight.
We weren't even close to being like timed out either. We were only in the 7th card because I think the second one just flipped up.
No, we were on the 6th.
No, because we had the 7th card up. Because you were able to get to the 6th, but that was that round. No, because it was 7 cards. We had the first 5 at the top and then the 2 at the bottom.
We only had 1.
We had 2.
We had 1.
We had 2.
1 was the resources. 16 resources.
Yeah, that's the one you were able to get to. Mm-hmm. But there was another one that just came up. We had just started the round when our buddy got his last point. I'm telling you, I remember. It was 2. Because there were still 3 more left. And because we looked at the last 3, and I'm like, yeah, see, I would have been able to do it by that round. But the scores were close. It was 10, 9, and 7.
Yeah.
And so it was...
It was tight.
It was tight. It was very close. I did enjoy this one a lot. It was... I got to play a new faction. I kind of hampered myself. I think I would have done a lot better if I actually played with one of my powers. Because I lost myself out of trade goods.
Yeah.
Because I played the clans of... I can't remember the names of them, but they're the clans. They're the nomadic tribe. So I can move my space bases around the board. They act like ships. Every time I conquered a planet, which I conquered 9 of them, I could get trade goods for every time I take over a new planet. I only played that at the end of the game when I only got 2 trade goods out of it because I just wasn't paying attention to what my characters can do. And so I hurt myself, and I needed trade goods because nobody was coming over to my area to, get rid of my commodities. So I've been sitting on my 3 commodities since the beginning of the game, and I just couldn't, because I think you did the trade action, one of the first 2 turns of your turns.
Oh, yeah.
And I couldn't turn them into trade goods for me to do what I needed to do. And it's just because I screwed myself. I think I would have had, one of them was you have to spend 5 trade goods. And if I had my trade goods on a turn, I could have done that a lot earlier, and I could have had another point in there, and I would have been able to get some of the stuff. My whole goal that entire time, I wanted to get my War Sun on the board, and I just was screwing myself over. Oh. But, oh my God, and the thing about it, what I liked about this game, it's a long game. It took us 4.5 hours, so that's saying something for a 3-player game. But we were engaged the whole time. When our friend is thinking about his turn, what he's going to do, how he's doing the stuff like that. Oh, should I go here? Should I do this? You and me were doing little trades on the background. Hey, if I go there and you leave me alone and let me get that, for I can get this goal over here, you and me can do a thing because I'll be adjacent to you. And I'm like, that's fine. You just need to leave that planet over there alone because I need to get there for something I got to do. So we were engaged in talking amongst ourselves, making deals while our buddy's doing his own thing. And then we're making deals with him when it's you're doing your action. He's like, okay, I'm a man of my word. Here, we're trading this. We're doing this. And I'm doing this. I'm like, hey, if you leave this alone, I'll go over here. And then we saw what he was doing, beelining to Mechatol Rex. Yeah. And it's like, oh, God, man, no. But, yeah, it was just the whole time we're engaged with what's going on. I had a blast on it. And, in fact, we talked about it earlier. We're now Instagram. Have an Instagram. This is the first thing we talked about on Instagram. We put it up on... the photos of before you took a game in the middle, towards the end of the game, you took a picture of it in action. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we had a blast doing this. So, if you want to go check it out, you can go find our Instagram, Everyday Board Games. And, oh, man, it was a blast. I enjoyed this game a lot. What do you think?
Oh, I enjoyed it a lot, too, because, I mean, I was honestly a little hesitant, wondering if I was going to like it as much as I do. Because, I'm considered the Euro player of the group, which... isn't totally true, as we discussed during the game. Yeah. It's I guess I played the heavier Euros, sure, but...
Yeah, well, you got us into a lot of the
Yeah, I was the one who got you into a lot of Euros, too. And I liked those just as much, too, but there was something very special about this game. And they had a lot of really smart things that it did. The theming of it worked. There's a lot of cohesive and realistic ways to victory, which I really appreciated the fact. It's not just who's the last person standing, who's the king of the mountain, a lot of those games do.
Yeah, no.
It's not who controls the area like a lot of those games do.
Pretty much played Care Bear, or we all pretty much played Care Bear on this one. We didn't get into a lot of combat. There was a little bit of combat, and that was towards the end because our buddy needed to do something. He needed to kick you out of things.
Yeah, sure.
And so you're like, I already got what I needed, so yeah, you're fine taking that.
The only part that kind of looked iffy is like when I was going for that secret objective, I had to get 5 dreadnoughts on the board, and I was like, guys, I know what this looks like, but I assure you, it is not what it looks like.
Yeah, no. But yeah, what I liked about that, we were playing Care Bear, and the reason, I even told them flat out, I'm not going to fight you guys. Last time I did fighting, the dice rolls did not go my way, so screw that. I'm just going to build up my army and turtle myself over here. You guys do your own thing, because it didn't work out for me. The first time I ever played this thing, I was like, I'm going to go into here, I'm going to fight this guy, and I'm going to fight this guy. I had a really big military going on.
Yep.
Our mutual friend who I played this with, Damn It Dom, he had... his entire, like, half his fleet wiped out originally. I went and fought him with the bigger fleet, and I still lost. I ended up losing, like, most of my fleet.
Yeah, you did.
So it's like, okay, I'm going to go Care Bear on this one. I'm not going to fight. I'm just going to try to get my resources. I'm trying to get some of those agendas over there, or the goals over there, plus my secret objectives. I got all 3 of my secret objectives that I ended up getting. So it's like, I'm trying to do this.
I was close, yeah.
And you were doing the same thing. You were getting those agendas in your secret objectives. And
I was the first to get every agenda on the public.
And the thing about it, too, is the public objectives. Yeah, that's what it is. But the thing about that, too, is it still made it so close. We didn't really get into a lot of space battles or ground battles, and the scores were still 10, 9, and 7. We were with 3 points between each other.
Yep.
It was phenomenal. And I have to say... This is a really well done game for this is the quintessential Ameritrash game. I think Euro players would like this too because there's a lot of wheeling and dealing on that aspect too. The big thing that a lot of people don't like is the dice chucking, and that's the main thing of like Ameritrash. You don't need to get into combat. It's behooves you sometimes to get into the combat.
You should never go into like a heavy Euro expecting random dice rolls.
Yeah.
By the way, Feast for Odin, great game.
Yeah, but I'm just saying. There is a possibility that a lot of Euro players don't like that, like the heavy dice rolling for the combat and stuff like that. You could still win without having to worry about combat if you play your cards right, get the right objectives.
I was very close to that.
Yeah, you got into 2 battles, and it was mainly just because our buddy needed.
It was literally like he just needed to go into the areas that I just so happened to be in. So it's like, all right,
I'm retreating. So
I'm retreating. Go for it. I would have retreated earlier if I got the objective earlier. That's fine.
Yeah, so it's just one of those things. I really did enjoy it a lot.
Very good. And the last one I want to talk about was a game that I hadn't played in a long time, but it's a favorite of one of my friends, one of our mutual friends, the Beard of Knowledge. And he...
Not me.
Yeah, no.
He's got a much better beard than I do.
He's got a much more knowledgeable beard.
He's got a Gandalf beard.
That's right. And we had a friend over, and we're talking about, it's like, what games haven't we played in a while? And he specifically requested this one game alone. And this is Fabled Fruit by Freedom and Freeze. And this is the one where every time you play it, it's not a legacy game, but the Fabled system is that it introduces some new stuff, some new systems into it, new cards, and so you're always playing with 24 cards that you can go to, which can range anywhere from like 6 or more different options. So you're either going to move your piece to another card on your turn. You must do that anyway. And then the one you land on is the one that you either buy for its fruit cocktail, you put it face down, you need a certain number of those to win the game, or you use that card for its ability. And he has designed, I want to say, like over 80 different abilities or something like that, different cards for each of those. So as you're moving around and as you buy one of those as the fruit, you deal out the next card of what's called the huge deck. And it's literally just, those are the next sets of cards that come up. So as you're buying these, as the opportunities arise, different abilities are going to stay in longer than others. Some might not be as well as others. Some might give you more options to those, and it adds in more mechanisms and more abilities that just get neater and neater and neater. We've reset this game. This is our 3rd time actually starting from the beginning and going with it. Okay. And we've already decided that if it's us 3 again, then we're going to bust it out and we're going to keep playing off of it, because our 3rd guy, he liked it just fine. But
this is one of the new guys to your game night?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and he liked it just fine. But a lot of the others were, me and our mutual friend, Jim, we all just love this game. We adore it. I like most of the Fable games, some more than others.
Yeah.
But this is definitely probably the top list. So that was Fabled Fruit. And now we're going to be getting into our actual episode today. As we said at the top of our episode, we're going to be doing a top 8 debate for roll and write games. And as always, we post this on the Facebook group. Not our Facebook group. It's called the Board Game Revolution group.
That's the one we use.
Mm-hmm. And because got to give them a shout out. They're one of the best board game groups ever on Facebook. Mm-hmm. They're a great community, good people, and they like to vote on our top 8 debates, and of course add in some of their own. So we're going to talk about some honorable mentions before, because the way we pick our list of which games that we use for this is we look on BoardGameGeek.com, put them by rank for the highest ranked on top, and we take the top 8 that Daniel and I have both played, so that way we can give an honest, good debate for each side. But that does mean that sometimes there's some games that you've played, some games that I've played, that we want to talk about and just give a little shout out to.
So we'll have honorable mentions. Our contributors will have honorable mentions. The definition, though, I want to get to real quick. How Board Game Geek words this. This way everybody knows. We talked about how people added flippin' rights to the poll. Board Game Geek defines roll and rights as usually small and portable games that involve players rolling dice and marking results on sheets of papers or erasable boards. Another common factor is that marking choices made in a previous play limits a player's marking choices in future plays. And so the key word here is rolling dice.
Yes.
So that's where...
It's a roll and write.
Yeah.
And, there was an example that I saw not too long ago where somebody was developing a pencil. And since pencils have 6 sides, they have the numbers on it, or they had certain symbols, they could roll the pencil, and then that would be your roll, and you write with the pencil itself.
Yeah.
I thought that was really fun.
All right, I'm just trying to find... There we go. All right, so going into the honorable mentions, do you want to start with ours, or do you want to start with the fans?
Let's start with ours, as we normally do.
Okay.
Here we go. Here's our Coin of Doom. Boom. I'll start us off. So the first one I wanted to talk about is one that... as soon as I heard about it, I knew I had to play it, because it's a theme that I've already really enjoyed. And as far as I know, this is, I think, the 2nd out of 3 games that have this theme. I've only seen 2 other games that have it, and this is pinball. And I've seen a card game pinball, and I've seen a solo game recently from Freedom and Freeze, Freaky Frogs from Outer Space, which I've talked about before on a previous episode.
I figured this was going to be on your list, so I didn't put it on mine.
Super Skill Pinball is really cool. I forget the designer of it, but Jeff Engelstein? Is that the designer? I think that is. I might be wrong on that, so correct me if I am. But this designer tried his best to simulate a pinball table as a roll and write. So on your turn, you're going to roll 2 dice. You're going to pick one of the 2 results. So if I roll a 1 and a 5, then... Jeff Engelstein.
Yep.
So if I roll a 1 and a 5, I'm going to choose either 1 or 5, and I'm going to move my pinball down 1 level, potentially. Sometimes there's ways to keep them up, and hit one of the features that have that number in it. Knocking out all of a certain feature might give you bonuses, or might give you extra abilities, or multi-ball, or multipliers, or save features, or all sorts of different stuff. And each of the boards are functionally different. Like, they have their own little quirks to them.
I also like the fact that you always have to move your ball down until you get to the flippers, unless you hit bumpers that allow you to hit certain ways up and down and stuff like that.
Exactly.
So I do like that
aspect. And that works really great, because there's nothing more satisfying than playing actual pinball, and it's just... and you're just like, man, I'm doing so good, even though I have no control over it. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's really self-satisfying.
Yeah.
And the way it works, really simple, is to play multiple players, is quite simply, you roll the 2 dice, everyone just picks their own number. So at the first start of the game, the first couple moments, even maybe up to the first ball, everyone is pretty similar. But then when one person makes a slight change, then they're going to end up in totally different spots.
What I like, too, is the bumping in that one.
Yeah, the tilt feature works really well.
Tilt, there we go.
Yeah, so if you bump, or nudge, if you nudge it, you don't want it to tilt, because that's the pinball term, you would lose it. Yeah, but if you nudge it, the number that you would modify the dice by, simply if the next roll is a wider span than that number, then you've tilted and immediately lose the ball. So sad, but it might have been worth it depending on what you were going for.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing worse than going multi-ball immediately and then nudge it.
But another thing about this one, I'm sorry to jump in on your game, is that like multiple different versions. You have the 4K.
Yep.
Then you have the other one.
You have the sequel.
The sequel. I can't remember what that one's called.
Yeah, I forget that one. But then you have Christmas.
Christmas, or the holiday one, which has Elf, Christmas Story, and
Christmas Vacation
in there.
Yep.
But then the one I want to play is the Star Trek.
Yeah, that's the only one I don't have in my collection. And here's the thing, like the way it works really simply is that you have a bunch of different boards, and you have another board that keeps track of your score, but that's like the main
that's supposed to be like the top of it, yeah.
And some of them actually utilize that whole part, which is super cool. But they're really thin, boards, but they're sturdy. WizKids did a good job. They're good laminate and
dry erase too. So
they're all dry erase. So all you need is dry erase markers. I do want to find a solution to put all of mine together in like one little box.
I think you can do it. It'll be a little tight, but you just get rid of all your extra markers.
Yeah, I thought about that.
You only need one pack of the balls. You only need one set of dice and just one set of markers, and then just have just store your markers and stuff like that elsewhere. Right. You just got to take out that insert. That's why all the boards.
I know how I can do it. Yeah, just like how you take 2 of the box lids for it.
There you go.
And you get punch board, and you surround that outer edge so these fit together like a double edge box. Kind of like
how where's that?
Like how Wingspan does it.
Twilight, right there.
Yep, Twilight. Yep,
or,
there you go.
Not Twilight. What's that called?
New Moon.
Return to Dark Tower.
Sorry. It was the second movie, right?
Oh, God. Oh, God.
It's the movie, the board game, right? Twilight, New Moon, the movie, the board game? No, Super Skill Pinball, I absolutely adore that game. I think that's going to be my solution, is I'm just going to compile all of them and see if that fits. But anyway, can't recommend it enough.
It's such a good game, yeah.
Fantastic.
It would have been on my list, but I figured that was going to be on yours. Because when we saw it, I'm like, he's going to write that one down.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so the first game I'm going to talk about is one of the oldest roll and writes out there. And I only heard about this one specifically because of Z Garcia from the Dice Tower.
Wow, Yahtzee is,
No, it's one of the older modern ones, outside of Yahtzee and stuff like that.
I kid.
And this one is called St. Malo.
Oh, yes. Okay.
It's dry erase boards again. I need to get new dry erase markers because those things are just not working.
They're almost wet erase at that point.
So you're basically rolling some dice, marking stuff off on the dry erase boards. You're trying to get cannons to protect yourself from invasions from the pirates. It's a fun, simple game. I have to play it again just to get a better reminder of this game. But when I saw it, I have to go put it up there. But I love this game a lot. It's just so fun. You're trying to build up your fort from pirate raids and stuff like that. So you want to build up your cannons, but you also want to build in your fort because that's where you're going to get your points based on what you put in there. But you also want to make sure you have the right kind of people in there for they can give you your scores by going to certain buildings or soldiers to help for your defense. So I like a lot of what it does. It's one of the bigger, I guess you could say, roll and writes because it does more than just, hey, you're marking a number in a box. This one is like, okay, you're marking this here, now you need to do this, which adds this. So it does a little bit more of the complexity that I like from the roll and writes. Don't get me wrong, there's some really good ones in here that aren't that complex. Right. But I like the next step when it comes to roll and writes, and St. Malo's does it really well for something that came out, I think, in like 2012, 2013, something like that. So, and I want to say it might be Inca the Brands.
I don't know.
I'll check it out right now while you go on to your next game.
Sounds good. The next one I wanted to talk about is a solo-only roll and write game. This is simply called... Is it the Brands? Wow, that's cool. It's a solo-only roll and write game that I really only learned about during the pandemic. I was like, man, it's a print and play solo campaign roll and write game.
Yeah, I knew this was going to be on your list.
It got a lot of buzz. In fact, not only did it make it my list, I played it this afternoon. Because I recently bought the WizKids version of it. Speaking of WizKids, there's my next one.
Yeah, this is the second one of theirs.
This is called Bargain Basement Bathysphere, which is an absolutely absurd idea of a game. And the guy who came up with it, I don't know what he was thinking, but he had so much humor into it. It's a multi-level campaign game where you're playing over a series of maps, and the system works really well. You are rolling, depending on the scenario, a number of dice, like 4 or 5 normally, and you're using those dice and you're setting them aside and going down that number of spaces. Okay. The problem is anytime you go over any spot that has resources like oxygen, repairs, or even damage, if you pass over those, you suffer those penalties. But if you land exactly on those spaces, then you're good, right? you just mark it off quite simply. But on your return trip, if you land on anything that's been marked off, you also sustain stress on yours because you've already encountered that before. So thematically it's a little interesting, but each scenario has all sorts of different things that you're doing in it. Sometimes you're collecting fish, sometimes you're delving down and salvaging wreckage, sometimes you're saving people. During the original printout version, I probably played about half of it. I know at that time I had played 18 different scenarios. I lost quite a few of them, and I count any time I lose as I just wasn't able to make it to the top, because it can get out of hand really fast.
I believe it.
Yep, because every time you have to get all of your dice back into your pool and you re-roll them all, then you lose one of your dots of oxygen. And as you're sustaining stress and landing on these spots, sometimes you're just like, well, I don't want to waste all my dice, so it's better to get a stress and move like 6 spots than it is to get my dice back yet, but then I don't know what I'm going to roll, and each map has its own little crazy little things. And it's not spoiler to give out because it's not a legacy and it doesn't really inform your decision, but the very first scenario in the WizKids version has whirlpools where if you go through it, it'll have 2 numbers that are on the spot that you land on. Roll all of your remaining dice, so you want to have used up most of your dice by then. Mm-hmm. And any instance of rolling those numbers, you sustain 2 stress for each of those. So if it's the numbers 1 and 2 and I roll 3 dice and it's a 1, 1, and a 3, I get 4 stress to my thing, which is huge. That's really bad for it, because as you're trying to get out of the whirlpools, super fun. I played this afternoon just to be like, man, I haven't played in a while. I finally got the new version. I hadn't played the new version yet.
You picked this up when we were in Tucson.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So it wasn't too long ago, but it was on my radar. I knew I wanted it. Because I was doing the printout versions. I still have them somewhere. But yeah, I'm super excited for this. I already want to go home and play it again.
I was just thinking, because this was created right before the pandemic, right?
It wasn't too long ago, but it really blew up during the pandemic.
I knew it was about the pandemic. I just didn't know what it was. And we have a game on the list that was created during the pandemic. So Roll and Rights had a nice resurgence during that period.
They did. And people could play them over Zoom
and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, the one that is on our list is still played over YouTube.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And we'll get to it when it happens. So the next game I want to talk about. Are you done? Are you done?
That's it.
All right. The next game I want to talk about. Speaking of a game that is on our list, this is kind of a follow-up, or at least made by the same people that does have a game on our list, and this is Three Sisters. This is about gardening. You're doing basically a roll and write where you're trying to grow like pumpkin patches or flowers, or do an apiary with some bees and stuff like that. It's one of those double sheet. Think something like what is that Shim Phillips one? The roll and write. I can't think of it, or the flip and write. What's it called? The Roman one,
Hadrian's Wall, yes.
Yeah, so it's got like 2 sheets where you're marking different areas, and then something on this sheet can mark off something on this sheet over here. We'll talk about it a little bit later when we get to the actual top 8 debate.
Yeah.
But it does a lot of the same things that other one does. I do like this one a lot. I do want to try some of the others that are in this line, because there's like Motor City, I think, is another one that does something like it, and there's the most recent one, the French Quarter. But I like these, talking about like when I was talking about St. Malo, those like Next Step, those little bit more heavier roll and writes. Hadrian's Wall is a little too heavy for my liking, and that's more of a flip and write than anything, but I'm just saying along that where it's like when you're marking something here, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
This one is like, oh, you're marking here, you can mark it on this one, or you can mark it on this one, or if you do it here, this can give you a bonus to mark over here. I like that kind of aspect where it's just not too heavy for you, where you're kind of like getting those combo tastics on it.
Anytime there's combos in a game like this, you feel really clever when you pull off multiple turns after a row.
So Three Sisters does that really well. I do like that aspect. And I like the fact that when you're marking here, and then you can go into the greenhouse, and you can go over to the pumpkin patches, or you're getting the flowers. But I also like the fact that there's a little step of what you can grab as you're going, because it's like, these are the dice here, this guy's over here, so we can't really do this over there. So there's like a lot of like moving parts on it, but once you gronk it, it's really fun to play. And so this is Three Sisters.
Cool. In fact, you said, look, I love gardening, but roll and writes are not really my thing. Yeah, I don't blame you on that, but if the theme is looking, or is something that you're interested in, how many, I mean, there's a lot of good, like, farming games, and there are some good gardening games, but I'm struggling to think of specifically which ones.
Yeah, and then a lot of the time, like, the farming games themselves are not, like, the big aspect. Like, Agricola can be a farming game, but that's not the core of the game, because you're basically, you got to feed your people on that one. So there is things like, and the thing about like roll and writes, I get it. Roll and writes, I like roll and writes, but they're not my favorite thing. I prefer flip and writes, and if I'm all honest, I just like a lot more flip and writes than I do roll and writes. But I do like every single one of the games that are on this list here. So
yep. All right, the last one I want to talk about is it's another. It's technically a campaign game, but the way it works is just absolutely brilliant. I've always loved the system. This is Trek 12. The Himalayas specifically is the version I have. And the way it works is really simple. You have a pad of paper, you're climbing up a series of trails on the mountains. You start at one spot, but then every number has to be adjacent to that. What you're doing is you're going to be rolling 2 dice, and everyone has to determine how they're going to use those dice. You can either use the higher of the 2 numbers, you can use the lower of the 2 numbers, you can use them added together, you can use the higher one subtracted by the lower one, or you could have them multiplied together. However, each of those 5 options you can only use up to 4 times throughout the entire game. So if I choose, like, well, a 5 would be good here, and I rolled a 3 and a 5, then I'm going to use the higher of the 2 numbers, perfect, and then I'm going to put it down. But then that's only 3 more times that I can use the higher of the 2 numbers. So at first, it's really comfortable. You're like, okay, I can put this here. Oh, I can manipulate this. And then halfway through the game, you're like, wow, I would love to use this number and add these together. But my first 4 turns were adding together, so I can't do that anymore. I'm kind of out on the creek, and you're trying to combine them into either having sets of the same number or having them consecutively in a row. And each of those makes different paths, and they score separately too. Yeah. But you could have ones that are part of both sets, which is really neat. And as long as they're part of a set, you're going to be able to score them at the end of the game. Otherwise, there were negative points and unhappy smileys as you're doing that. Or you could just choose to put a sad face just to kind of mitigate your luck there.
Yeah, exactly. I do like this one.
It's so cool.
It just doesn't get played a lot. Another reason why I like it, too, is it's Bruno Cathala.
It is Bruno Cathala, yeah. And I mean, like, really, I love that option. Like, that makes me excited. There's a card game coming out from Fireside Games that they announced not too long ago called Ultimatch. Yeah. And it does, like, that same idea. It's like, if you can manipulate these numbers to somehow work out to the number you need, yeah, it counts. And this is kind of like that same idea. It's like, if I can... if I could either multiply these together, if I have a 1 and a 3 and I need a 3, I could do the higher number, or I can multiply them, or I could use the higher of the 2. You know, there's a lot of different ways I can get what I need, but hopefully that won't run me out of options later. I think it's great. I think
it's a good game. Well. I do like it. I need to play it more.
We need to play through the actual campaign.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of want to do that. Yeah, because I have it all. I have only played the base part of it.
No. Do you have the expansion too?
No, I do not have the expansion.
Yeah, I picked up the expansion, so it adds even more envelopes. It adds like twice as much components.
Damn.
It's filled to the brim. Yeah,
that's crazy. I do like it. It gets okay when I'm playing it with other people. So.
Oh, nice. Okay, you own the red and green versions of Railroad Inc. We'll be talking about that very soon.
All right, so my final game I'm going to talk about, you wouldn't think it is a roll and write, but it actually is, because it's a large game. It's a big box game by Elizabeth Hargrave. It's recent. I just think it recently came out, I want to say the end of last year, so end of 2023. And this one is The Fox Experiment. And it's funny, when we were doing this list, I'm like, oh, you know what? That is a roll and write. Yeah, and I had to look it up, because the main part of this game is you're marking cards to give you a better breeding pair somewhere down the line. Yep. And so the way this game works exactly is you're going to draw, you have the first phase is it's like a worker placement. Mm-hmm. When it's your turn, you're going to pick one of three things. You're going to pick a male fox, a female fox, or you're going to pick your placement for the next round. And when you do that, you pick your male fox, you pick your female fox. Once you pick your placement down, you go into the next round. The male fox and the female fox is going to tell you what kind of dice you need to roll, and you have a goal card that tells you what you kind of need to mark off. This way you can get your points. Mm-hmm. And so you're like, okay, I need to get this male fox because it's giving me this dice, and I need to get this female fox because it's giving me this dice, because when I make my pup, I can get the dice that I need because I need these things to upgrade my stuff over here that can help me later on down the road. Like allowing me to do more than one pup at a time, or kit, I think is what the baby foxes are called. And so as you're doing all that, and then once you go into the second phase, when you do the dice rolling, that's simultaneous play. Mm-hmm. So I'm rolling my dice, I'm marking my stuff, and then everybody else is doing their thing. I'm doing my little upgrade, and then once we're done, the round's up, we have to clean up, and I think it plays in like 5 rounds or something like that. We go, whoever had the most marked off, you get a certain points. Whoever didn't, they go on this little track over here that do this thing. I was like, you know what? This was surprisingly a really fun game. Mm-hmm. I like some of the dice that you're getting. It doesn't give you like a full mark off. You have to put like 2 dice together to give you the dice. And it's like, okay, here's the other half. Can I get another dice on here? This way, now I have 2 complete things that I'm marking off. And then your pup is going to go up to the top for it to be drafted as a parent for someone else's cycle, because you're playing into like 5 different cycles. So the pup I made a really good pup or kit. Mm-hmm. Well, guess what? I might not be able to get that kit back to me where I want it to be this way, because I want I made it specifically for I can get those certain dice to roll. But if I'm not in the proper spot, if I'm not getting the first pick, and someone says, I like those dice, it works for me, I'm going to take that kit. And it's going to become my new male parent. And then you can play with a variant where you can give yourself a penalty if you have foxes of the same color, because you have colored cards. So, like, if I play yellow, I pick both my parents, the male and the female, or yellow cards. There's a penalty to me because that's inbreeding. So, I do love this game. I want to play it more. I think it's a phenomenal game. It's fun to play. It's actually quick because of that simultaneous action. The only times you're not doing the simultaneous action is basically just the very first step when you're doing like the worker placement aspect of it. So it's a fun game. Fox Experiment. Give it a shot if you haven't seen it. The non-Kickstarter exclusive is already a great copy. I have the Kickstarter, so I have like the upgraded bits and stuff like that. But you honestly don't need them. They're just really nice.
Cool. All right, let's talk about viewers' honorable mentions. Fox, you already brought up Railroad Inc., which will be one that we're going to be debating here in a bit. And then Ryan, multiple contributor. He contributes a lot with this. So Ryan, thank you for doing that. He actually said Yahtzee, which is not wrong.
It's not wrong. It's pretty much the granddaddy of roll and writes.
It is. And, you know, it could be made as an argument. It's like, oh, it's kind of a press your luck or a set collection game. Yeah, technically,
it can have both mechanisms.
Yes, but the fact is that when you score a certain spot, that you cannot go back to score that spot. That's what makes it a quintessential roll and write.
Yeah. Cody added welcome to, and this is when we just said we were going to talk about it. This is a flip and write. Mm-hmm. This is going to be their own set of games for later on. So this is why we didn't count it. It's a good game. It might even be in the top 8 when we do the flip and writes.
Yeah, absolutely. Kirk added Super Skill Pinball,
which we just talked about. Jackie added Twilight Inscription, which is the roll and write version of Twilight Imperium, which we talked at the top of the hour. That's another reason why I wanted to talk about Twilight Imperium.
I'm curious about it.
I do want to try this one. It looks really interesting. I think Gamehead Geek has a copy of it, so we're going to see if he's going to bring it one of these days.
Hopefully. And then Sean added Three Sisters,
which is what I reasoned about. Yep. Another flip and right here was added by Alice, Super Mega Lucky Box, which is a game we both love.
Yeah, it's a fantastic game. Absolutely. I even though it doesn't technically count for this list, 100% check that game out.
That's
it's
a very fun game. Yeah.
Thomas added Dinosaur Island Roar and Write.
That one's actually a fun game. I'm thinking, it is. It's a dice chucker. So
I still have yet to play any Dinosaur Island games.
You almost played Dinosaur World, and then you had to leave.
And I had to leave. Yep.
But yeah, no, it is a fun game. I like how it works. You're actually drawing basically the park itself in your board. Mm-hmm. So you're basically trying to draw the route and stuff like that, and make connections from one end to another end. It's really neat what it does. Cool. Thomas adds as well, Motor City. We talked about this one. I don't know a lot about it, but it's in the same grouping of Fleet, the dice game, Motor City, Three Sisters, and French Quarter.
And then Michel added Trois, the dice game.
Never played that.
I have played it. I have a copy of it. It's really interesting.
And another contributor here, Ross Beef. Mm-hmm. Kyoto. Know nothing about this one.
No, nothing about it. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. David added Roll for the Great Old Ones.
Another one I haven't heard about. Oh. Mike added the game that you love a lot, Rolling America.
I do. If it was...
That is a brain burner one.
Barely not on my list.
I like that game a lot. Yep. It's a brain burner.
Yep.
And then Doug added another flipping right here, Welcome to the Moon, the sequel to Welcome to.
That's right. And you know which one I'm actually really surprised that nobody put his honorable mention and it wasn't even on our list or anything? On Tour.
Yeah, I'm surprised. Well...
Because that game got a lot of love when it came out.
Absolutely. No, it is a rolling right, yeah.
2D10s.
Yeah, it is... Honestly, the reason why it didn't go on my list, I wasn't a big fan of it. It was fine, but I'd rather play Rolling America rather than on Tour.
I agree. I just know how much love that game got.
Oh, yeah, it got a lot. But then again, who was it talking? I think it was the Dice Tower they were talking about on Tour, where it had a lot of love when it came out, and then it just went away. Yeah, nobody talked about it anymore. And again, I don't hear about it either. It's it was really, really hyped for that year, and then I haven't heard much about it since.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so let's get into our debate shortly. We are going to be talking about the top 8 roll and write games, as we talked about at the beginning of the episode. Let's break down what those games are. We have our number 1 seed, Gone Shun Clever, or That's Pretty Clever
in English,
here in the United States.
And it's going up against the game we were talking about that started as a pandemic game, Rolling Realms.
Our number 2 seed, Long Shot the Dice Game.
Going up against our number 7 seed, Rajas of the Ganges, the Dice Charmers.
Our number 3 seed, Railroad Inc.
Going up against our number 6 seed, Roll Through the Ages, the Bronze Age.
And our number 4 seed, Fleet the Dice Game.
Going up against our number 5 seed, Quicks.
All right. So we're excited about these. Now, Daniel, how do we actually rank these, and why do we do what we do to debate them and take our bias out of them?
So we rank them based on the highest ranking on Board Game Geek. So we get our number 1 seed is the highest rated. Our number 8 seed is the lowest rated. We rack them up, and that's where they lie in the brackets. And then to take our bias out of it, we go by 5 criteria that we also use in our board game brainstorms that help you get suggestions for other games. Yep. Yeah. So these are, the first one is ease of play, which is simplicity and familiarity of the mechanism. The likelihood to get to the table, i.e. through the mechanism or the theme, or is it easy to learn, understand, and or teach the game.
Then we have replay value, and that's the length of time and the scaling well. I have a feeling that we're going to have some tough time determining that with this. Roll and Writes are one of the few games that can be kind of unlimited on some examples.
Yep.
Minimum number of plays for the full experience, and how well they can expand. Either that's future expansions, current expansions, or ones that have been confirmed by either the publisher or the designer.
Next up, we have meaningful choice. How does it impact other player strategies when you're playing other people? The depth of strategy, tactic, or skills. And do arbitrary choices or AP make an impact on the game? And this one's going to be another really tough one because you're beholden to the dice roll. It's just how you use the dice.
That's right. And the next one is game immersion. This is how tied the theme is to the game itself. And we determine this by the player interaction, whether it's table talk, role playing. Is the game fun to lose? Are you just enjoying your experience as you're immersed in the gameplay itself? And those stand-up memorable moments that have people shouting, hooting, and hollering. May or may not have any in this one. We'll find out.
Yeah,
but
we'll see.
We'll talk as we get there.
And then the last criteria for us is art and production. The art, case in point. The pieces and components. This, again, going to be another little tough one to talk about. But the big part of it in this one for us is graphic design. As we mentioned before in past podcasts, both me and Daniel over here are colorblind, so that is going to be a factor when we're talking about these things.
That's right. And if all else fails, that's why it's so important that you go on our polls and actually vote on these. So that way, first off, to show them love, because they've been hosting us for all these time. But really, so that way we can break down the ties. If Daniel and I just cannot come to an agreement, then we go to the Board Game Revolution group, and that's where we come up with the ties. And I just realized we forgot to talk about the comments that people included with
nothing.
it. All right, cool.
It was basically just talking about the flipping rights.
Awesome. So, with that being said, Daniel, are you ready to get into this?
I'm ready to get into this. I got the Cup of Doom.
And I have the Coin of Doom, and we're going to flip this Coin of Doom to see who debates first, and we're going to pull from those first two seeds. That's Pretty Clever versus Rolling Realms. Let us begin. Know start us off.
You get That's Pretty Clever.
All right, Ganshan Clever.
Caveat real quick, just with the Ganshan Clever, because I don't know if I mentioned the rule that we weren't playing right when we were taught this game.
Okay, I've since played it right.
Okay, make it sure.
Yeah, you've brought it up, but as long as we agree that that's how it should be played.
Yeah.
Ganshan Clever is really cool. And I'm going to say the original title just because that's what I'm used to.
Mm-hmm.
But That's Pretty Clever is what it's known here in the United States.
Where you find here, or in English-speaking aspects.
And if I'm not mistaken, this is one of those designers that I'm a big fan of. I think this is Wolfgang Warsch.
I believe so.
Yeah, I think so. We'll double-check that here in a minute.
You can check it right there. It's right above. It's on Horrified.
We're going to find out. Hold on, I'm checking because this is important to our debate. Yes, Wolfgang Warsch. I'm a big fan of this guy's designs. His stuff, he has a very creative mind, and this is a perfect example of it. Mm-hmm. Yes, there's a number of dice. They're all different colors. You're going to be choosing the dice based on the number that they roll, and the color determines what sector that you're going to be drawing those into. Mm-hmm. There is also a white die, which you can add to the main die, if I'm not mistaken, or something to that effect.
Well, no,
or
the white die has to be
like
used during. You use the combination of the white die and the blue die for the blue section.
Oh, so that's right.
You got to add those up.
Yeah.
The white die is a wild. You can use it in any section.
That's right. I forgot that's how that works. Yeah, it was either a wild or it had to be used at some point. But yeah, so the main person who rolls it gets to pick one of the dice. Everyone else gets to pick whatever they want from the remaining, and each of those different sections have different ways of scoring. But not only do they have different ways of scoring, it's not just like, oh, well, you need all even numbers here, or you need all odd numbers here, or this needs to be a big number. No. They have either a grid or some weird track that you're going on to. Or you're doing math between the spots. And a lot of those things score in different ways. But not only that, they unlock abilities to mark off other sections of the board. And we talked about this earlier. Being able to combo one spot off of another makes you feel really clever. Mm-hmm. That is in the title.
Yeah.
And this game has gotten so much love. I have owned it. I like it. It's fine. It's not one of my favorite games. I mean, you do own it, but it's not one of my favorite roll and writes personally.
Yeah, I do like it a lot.
I appreciate what it does.
You forgot the big roll, though.
What's the big roll?
When you're picking the dice? When you're picking the dice, if you pick a 3, anything below the 3, the 2s and the 1s, they go into the supply for everybody else.
Right. Yeah, so that goes into... I did forget that. It's been a while.
Yeah,
it's not one of my favorite Rolling Rights, but compared to Rolling Realms, I mean, I get the love for Rolling Realms, but this really, I think, needs to move on.
Okay, we'll talk about that. I like Rolling Realms a lot, so this is going to be tough. We may have to break this down.
Okay.
The big thing about Rolling Realms, though, I like the fact that this was created by Jamie Stegmaier just to connect with people during the pandemic. A lot of us were isolating. He's like, hey, I can do this little roll and write. Oh, you guys can print these out. I'll put it up on Board Game Geek for you can get the printouts. Mm-hmm. And these are the rules that I'm going with here. It's based on, the reason why it's called Rolling Realms is based on a bunch of the realms of Stonemaier games. At the time, I think there was only 8 games in his lineup. It was Viticulture, Wingspan, Scythe, and stuff like that. So he was basically playtesting it as we're going. And the big part of it, too, he was like, hey, did you guys like this? And everybody's like, yeah. Do you want me to make a physical copy? Yes. And And the way this game works, in a sense, is what happens, like especially in the beginning. You have a certain set of worlds. One person will shuffle their deck based on their color, and they're going to draw 3 cards off the top of the deck. Everybody else is just going to go through their deck, and they're going to pick those same 3 cards. Everybody's playing the same realms, and each realm has their own different rules of how you're going to use the dice. Yep. So someone is going to roll the dice. The first player is going to roll the dice, and then it's just going to move as everybody's going. And then... Actually, you don't even have to move them. Someone's just going to roll the dice, and then you're going to determine which die you want to use where. So in one thing, you have to use one of the die in one realm, and you have to use one of the other dice in the other realm. Yeah. But you have to use both of the dice, and you have to use them in different realms, unless you have a special ability without allowing you to mark the same realm. It's just one of those things. The whole point of this is you're trying to fill up your realms in a certain amount of, I think it's like nine rolls in a round. You're trying to, because after the round's over, you're going to get 3 new cards, and you're going to do that 3 times. So when you're rolling the dice and you're trying to get as many stars as you can, because the person with the most stars, victory points at the end of the game, will win the game. What I like about this one is just, I love the little mini games because you have different rules that are going on while you're trying to do it that really do feel thematic to the other games and stuff like that, because it feels like, okay, this is Charterstone, you're going to use this number to get you here. Now that you have this number, you can use this number here to open a crate, which can give you a star, can give you resources. You can use the resources, you mark off a couple resources, hey, that allows you to use the dice this way, or you can modify the dice by using this resource here, and you just mark them off the thing. You're scoring points as you go. You get a half point for every resource you don't use at the end of the round. So like if I have 4 resources over, hey, that's 2 more points for me. You can even mark it as 2.5 points or 9.5 points or whatever you're going to get. You do get half points, and whoever has the most stars at the end of the game win. I like every aspect of it. And when we're talking about the expandability, this game is the most expanded out of all these roll and writes. Yeah. No, literally, you look at it.
I'm not giving that expression saying, no, that's not true. I'm trying to think if there actually is any that can even compare, and I don't. No, I mean, Gone Strong Clever though, they have released their 4th version, and they have a kids version.
Yeah, the only problem with that is they're standalone versions. They don't intermingle.
Sure.
The Rolling Realms can intermingle. You just play like different maps. Yeah. And the fact that I mentioned it earlier, Jamie Stegmaier still plays this on YouTube, and he's just constantly, these are the 3 realms, here's the numbers, use them how you will, as he's playing with them. So you can play against Jamie Stegmaier on his YouTube as he's playing Rolling Realms. I like that aspect of how you could just constantly keep playing with Jamie Stegmaier using the 3 different ones. And they have a great solo version called Mini Golf, and so you're trying to follow the rules based on the mini golf aspect of it. It has a reward system now called the Risky Rewards, which gives you bonuses as you're going through, so they kind of turn it into a campaign style too. It's got a lot of expandability and a lot of fun aspect of it. I like a lot of things. Like I said, I think we're just going to have to break this down for us to...
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, I still... one thing that I like about Rolling Realms, and I will give it credit, is that on one of Jamie Stegmaier's videos, he was talking about how publishers can go above and beyond to really make their product stand out. And he said it's something as simple as, like, if you have stock components, work with the printer, the manufacturer, to find a way to add your own unique spin to it. And he used the example from Rolling Realms as that example. They're big chunky dice, and they have hexagons instead of pips. Instead of little circles. He could have just gone with 2 standard dice. That's fine. But instead he chose to do it as this version, and I thought that was really clever. With that being said, though, I'm totally fine with breaking it down.
Ease of play for sure is Gone Strong Clever.
Yes, I 100% agree.
Replay value is Rolling Realms.
Okay, fair enough. And art and production, I mean...
That's Rolling Realms.
That's Rolling Realms,
because you have the dry erase cards over just like sheets. You have they comes with the markers in it. The big chunky dice.
Right. Meaningful choice, though, I think, is Gone Strong Clever because of the way you expand from one thing to another. In Rolling Realms, everything's just independent of itself, and it's just like, well, I really want this number here, but how am I going to work with the other number?
No, I give you that one. But for me, the the game immersion, for me, that's Rolling Realms, because every little realm does play like the game it is based off of. So you do have it is fun to lose. And it does match its mechanism. There is some player interaction, and they're not in like the table talk and stuff like that. It's like
there's no player interaction.
There's no player interaction in Gone Clever.
There's really not. There's
other than the dice that goes over there.
Now the benefit though, and I will say for Gone Clever though, is that you do feel really clever whether you win or lose or not. So I do think it also is fun to lose, but at the same time, the memorable moments is when you hit that combo where you're like, I did this, that does this, that does this, that does that. Rolling Realms doesn't have that.
Yeah, you do.
Not nearly to the extent.
Yeah, you do. Trust me. I just recently played some Rolling Realms, and I was playing like the mini golf aspect of it. There's memorable moments on that aspect of it. In the game, when you're like, okay, I did this. Oh, but I can't use that number. But hey, I got enough of these resources. I can mark this here. Boom, I got that. Now I can do this, and now I can do this. And because I did this, I can mark this off over here, and now I can use this and use both those dice again to unlock more stuff in my realms. There is combo-tastics in Rolling Realms.
Yeah, but not nearly to the extent that Gone Clever has. That's built into the function of it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It can happen.
Yeah. No.
So I'm willing to call it a wash.
Okay.
And let's see what the voters do. I didn't think we'd have to do it this quick, but I mean, that is fair. I do think we should.
All right, so Pretty Clever there, Rolling Realms there. Okay. Gone Clever moves on.
Okay, that's awkward. Okay, we'll talk about that here in a minute. That's Pretty Clever.
It's funny. I like using the English version because I keep forgetting how to spell. In fact, I couldn't even do the proper spelling of Gone Clever on there because I don't know how to turn my keyboard into the double dot O.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's fair. All right, now we're going to go into round number 2. Long Shot the Dice Game versus Rajas of the Ganges Dice Charmers.
Oh, this one, what was that again? It was... Okay.
Oh, my goodness. I'm losing the keyboard. Everybody's down. Hold on. Let me help you out there, sir. Here you go.
Sorry, I was trying to write down this way.
This is why you watch it live.
Yeah, exactly.
To see the shenanigans that goes down.
All right, Gone Clever versus...
Long Shot the Dice Game.
Here not Gone Clever. Rajas of the Ganges.
Rajas of the Ganges versus Gone Clever. Right. I'll start off this time.
You started off last time.
I'm starting off this time, too.
You get Rajas.
Yes! Rajas is just better. I mean, it is. Because we know it. No,
I don't know.
Actually, no. These are the two that I think have the hardest part. The one.
I will say this: Ganshan or Rajas of the Ganges, much more meaningful choice.
Much more meaningful choice. It really has a lot of impact on how you're doing it.
Hey, speaking of a Inca and Marcus brand rolling right.
Speaking of right, I mean, you and I are also big fanboys of the original board game, yeah. So we already pretty much decided that we were gonna like the roll and write version,
yeah,
if it has any sort of resemblance to it, because we just really like the system.
Yeah.
And going up the river, connecting all your tiles together, or all your different squares, building the roads between it. It uses a very unique system where the dice they're not standard dice. They have either icons of what people you're going to use, actions, or the roads that you're going to be doing.
6 dice you get in, or 5 or something like that,
something
and you
like
use
that,
only 2 of them.
Yeah, and
or one of them.
Well, one of the cool parts about it is that if I'm the one who picks the first die, then the other die of that same color
goes on the elephant.
Goes on the elephant.
One of the worst components ever.
Well, no, it's a great component.
The quality sucks on that.
It's a great component. It's just how they did it really was not pleasant. We'll talk about that in a minute because I will bring that up. But
I just brought it up.
I like that system where it's like, all right, I'm gonna pick this traveler. I'm gonna use his ability. I put the other traveler up there out of the way. You guys only have like roads or goods or whatever.
Yeah.
That you can choose from. And that's a really cool system because it's kind of worker placement, right?
Yeah.
It's I choose that spot so you don't get to.
A little bit, yeah.
Exactly. And there's a lot of good options in it, and it makes you you could go in any of the routes and have a decent chance of winning because there's ways to get points in all of the different aspects, except some of them have more points, some of them give you bonus actions, some of them let you work on other systems even more efficiently. Again, if you've played the board game, it's worth your time to try the roll and write game.
Same scoring mechanism, too, where you have to have the two sides cross.
So the two sides cross, which is very rare in a lot of games.
Especially in roll and rights.
And I like that system.
I mean, I own two games that have that. I have freaking Arc Nova and Rajas of the Ganges.
Yep, and I own Rattlebones in that.
And I've never seen...
Dilbert the board game.
Yeah, I haven't seen any roll and rights do that.
No, that's the only one that I'm aware of. And so, yeah, it works really well. I'm really impressed by it. And I will bring up the one bad part about it is that elephant, which is a cool component. But when it's built, the box will not close properly unless you've used up a number of the sheets.
Even if you lay it on the side. That's the problem.
Even if you lay it on the side. And that is a big no-no for us. It's like, if you have a component you have to build, I'm not going to unbuild it every time. Why do you think I yell at the tree from Everdell so much?
Yeah.
Especially when they make a big box. If they made a big box of dice charmers and that elephant still doesn't fit, then I'm mad.
Why would they make a big box of dice charmers?
I'm just saying. Because Everdell did it. And it still don't fit no tree. I don't know.
Yeah, you have to build the tree every time. And I get the tree in Everdell. It's just a aesthetic thing.
Yeah.
Where you have to use the elephant in...
I'm sure you could 3D print a thinner elephant and it would work.
Yeah,
and it would probably be better, but I don't know.
It just bothers me that for that. It's like you have
it looks great though.
You have this really cool thing, and then you can't leave it built.
Yeah, exactly. And it looks great. That's the problem. Like, it does look good.
I get to talk about Long Shot the Dice game, and this is very rare that we get to talk about a thematic roll and write game. This one will actually make you feel basically horse racing because you're basically trying to move horses. For a game that's supposed to be about horse racing, you feel like it's horse. It's not as good as like say
Ready Set Bet.
Ready Set Bet.
Right.
But this one, you're still rolling the dice. Right. Okay, now this horse is moving over here. This is the horse that I bought into.
The only reason I cringed a little bit, and finish your argument, and then I'll explain why I cringed during that thematic part of it. And go ahead.
I'm not even going to listen to you because you're wrong in so many aspects. For a roll and write game, this is a very thematic one. Rajas of the Ganges, I don't feel like I'm being a dice charmer. I don't feel like I'm using this guy
to
do this.
Charmer,
yeah,
right?
Well, it's supposed to be a take on a snake charmer.
Sure.
But it's like, I'm not using this guy over here to do the thing over here. I'm not building a road with this dice. This one is like, okay, I am getting this horse over there. I need this to start moving. I need to mark off over here for I can get my bedding properly. To the point, like, you grab my copy right there. It should be on the small shelf.
Oh, yeah. Here you go.
It's got really good components on there, too. You got these really... Not the dice charmers. Quit being a jackass.
All right. There you go.
So you have your numbers marked. You have horses that you're betting on. You have stuff that are basically moving. You're rolling the dice here to move the horse. So you have... Seriously?
I'm just looking at...
Why do you... Every time I'm doing something over here, you get distracted. Your ADHD is driving me insane when I'm trying to make a point. All I asked you was to get me this where I could show the big chunky horses that are on the back of the box. I'm done. I'm done with my argument. You ruined it.
So, Rajas of the Ganges...
No, I know. We're going to break this down because you won't let me make my argument. Simplicity.
No,
Long Shot the Dice game is much better.
The reason I cringed at that is because any game, and this is the same reason why if somebody's like, hey, Ready Set Bet is thematic, the fact that you can bet and modify the horses as they're racing is really, really unthematic in my opinion. Because that's totally not how real life works.
I'm ignoring you now.
No, I know you are. All right.
Easy to play. Long Shot the Dice game. Much easier than Rajas of the Ganges. There's a lot of moving parts than Rajas of the Ganges. Replay value. You play Rajas of the Ganges once, you basically know how to play it, but the same thing for Long Shot of the Dice.
Yeah, that's a wash.
Yeah, it's a wash there.
Yep.
Meaningful choice. You say Rajas of the Ganges, and I agree with you on that aspect.
Yeah.
There's a lot more choices because you have to be smart how you play the dice, even when it's your turn.
Yep.
And then there's also ways that you can mitigate. Hey, that they put that dice on the thing. No, I have this power. I could take that die off. I We'll roll what I'm going to use, and then I'm going to put it back up there.
Right. Yeah, whereas you're kind of, I mean, as with any betting, you're taking a shot in the dark.
Yeah.
Technically. Like, you're privy to information. You're hoping the odds work out, but you don't really know until it's done.
Yeah.
Right.
And then for me, game immersion is long shot the dice.
I do agree with you. 100% on that.
Now, here comes the thing. Art and production. Long shot the dice.
And here's why, right? Rajas of the Ganges, as much as I do love the art in it, like, I do like the elephant, and that's what I was looking at. It's like... I was pointing out the fact that, like, yours wasn't built on... I leave mine built. I probably shouldn't because it's probably bent up because other games are sitting on top of it, right? I mean, that's a minor detail, but when that's all you have and some custom dice, which custom dice are nice, right?
Yeah.
The fact that Long Shot the Dice game is everything's rolling right. It has that big chunky wooden meeples. You have the track that you're going around. The production is just better.
Yeah. No,
truth be told.
Long Shot the Dice game moves on.
That's right.
I'm very annoyed now, so let's move on to the next one.
I agreed with you, sir.
I know, but you also distracted me enough where I couldn't make my point because you can't pay attention to what's going on when there's a shiny thing in front of you.
I was agreeing with you. It wasn't shiny. It was a dismantled horse. I don't see dismantled
horses. That is not even a horse. That was an elephant.
I don't see dismantled horses all that often either, in my defense. All right, round number 3. We have Railroad Inc. versus Roll Through the Ages. You ready? I'll be starting us.
You get Railroad Inc.
Railroad Inc. Okay, so Railroad Inc. My first experience with this game was a number of years ago. I drove up to Minneapolis, went to a game shop in the Mall of America. I forget the name of it, but if you've been there, you know what game shop I'm talking about. It's a pretty nice place. And they recommended that for me because
you don't want to say the name, or you just don't remember?
I just don't remember off the top of my head. It's like something's game shop.
Game Center.
No, it's not that one. It was in Mall of America.
Oh, okay.
And I was looking for games I could play solo on my way back from or on the flight. And they recommended Railroad Inc. and One Deck Dungeon, and both of which I bought. Railroad Inc. Works pretty well. Actually, how does Long Shot Dice game compare to Win Play Show? I've never played it, so I don't know.
Show, so.
Yeah, so I'll have to look into it and I'll let you know. But Railroad Inc., it's a route building game. You're trying to connect different parts of the map together. You roll the dice that give you different kinds of trails. It could either be like the river, or railroad crossings, or something to that effect. It has been a while since I played it, so forgive me on that. And each of the different versions, there's a red, a yellow, a green, and a blue version. Each of those has their own specific bonus dice that have terrains or different rules sets that are added in, and they can expand it by adding 2 new sets of dice, which they've done a number of times to do so. But at its core, it is a route building. You're trying to connect certain parts together, so it's a cool little puzzle as you're playing it out. Mm-hmm. And with that being said, great components, good pieces, dry erase board as you're doing it. I didn't like this game at all.
I'm not a big fan of it either.
I was unfortunately really upset with it. And as a person who likes route building, who likes tile placement, which which likes roll and writes, I didn't love this game. And I don't know a good way to describe why I didn't, but I just didn't see that it did anything that exciting, and it just fell flat when it came to the part, so it's like, I just can't really do anything good with these dice,
So I played this not solo. I played it as a 2-player game with Gamehead Geek.
Okay.
You know what my issue with this game was?
What was that?
It's you basically have to draw your routes. Fine, I don't mind that. Yeah. But they didn't give you enough space with those markers to draw the actual routes you need, so it became one of the messiest things I've ever dealt with. And I'm like, okay, when you're towards the end of the game, I was like, what did I build here? What was this again? Which route was this? I know this curved, but did it curve this way or did it curve this way? Because I can't tell anymore because it somehow got bumped or marked when I was trying to write or draw somewhere else. And so, yeah, I had a big issue with that aspect of it. And don't get me wrong, it's not a horrible game. It's not bad. I didn't mind it, but out of all the games on this list, this is my least favorite out of all of them. The game I'm about to talk about, I really like, and I want to find a copy for myself.
Yeah, they're hard to find.
I'm a big fan of Civilization games, and the one I get to talk about is Roll Through the Ages, the Bronze Age. This is the copy that you own, that you brought over, that we played, that has a really cool little wood component on it, too.
Yeah, every player gets their own wood pegboard.
Yeah.
Great pieces.
And so you're basically rolling dice, and you're marking different stuff on your map, and you're using your pegboard, because that gives you... I think that pegboard's your coins, if I remember correctly.
The pegboard is a number of different resources, whether it's clay or food or whatever, and because that's going to be constantly changing throughout the game, so they gave you a pegboard that's non-permanent, but once you have certain resources that you can build other stuff, then that's when you mark it down on your map.
Yeah, and so I liked every aspect of that part of it, and the real big reason I did enjoy this, I love Civilization games, and this kind of gave you a little bit of fill in there because you're trying to make sure you have enough food for your population. You're trying to make sure you have strong enough military. This way, something happens, and doing all these other little aspects of it. I own the big game. I have Through the Ages, what this is based off of. Well, not the one I specifically own, because this is based off, I think the first version of Through the Ages, because I think I have the 3rd edition.
Something like that.
Something like that. I think it's the 2nd or 3rd edition. But I think it did a heck of a job for what it needed to do and what it gave you that feel. I think for me, this one moves on because I had a big problem with railroading, in all honesty.
Yeah, I mean, it's just what it offers. I like a lot of the stuff that it does, and I get why people like it. And I don't mean to sound to discredit that option. Yeah. Like our friend Fox Hugh, he likes it quite a bit, which is great, and I like that part of it. And I do normally like stuff like route building and tile laying, and the puzzle part of it. It's just there was something about it that throughout my time I just never enjoyed playing it. I couldn't describe it more than that. Yeah. Well, let's not get carried away though. It's fine. But Roll Through the Ages though comparatively is just leagues above.
Yeah, way above that. So
that's right. So Roll Through the Ages moves on.
And it looks like, it is going to be the one that's moving. It's the lowest seed that officially can be going on, so.
All right. And our last round is going to be Fleet the Dice Game versus Quicks. And I'm really hoping you get Fleet the Dice Game, because I don't remember it.
That's fine.
Almost at all. Here we go. You'll be starting us off this time.
All right, let's see what I'm going to be getting, because...
That's true. Yeah, Fox U, it does work well for what it's doing, what it's trying to do.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. I am getting the dice game, the Fleet the Dice Game, so you lucked out.
I was close, because you're going to have to remind me how this works.
All right, so Fleet the Dice Game, we were talking about it with Three Sisters, we talked about Motor City, Twilight Inscription, stuff like that is like these big grandiose... that give you 2 sheets of paper. This one is a roll and write version of a game that we both really enjoyed. I remember the first time we played Fleet, and you're like, okay, this is really good.
Yeah.
So what are we going to play the dice game version of it? Right. I had picked up a copy of it. And this one is you're rolling dice, but the way you're working here, you're going to be rolling 2 different times. You're going to play dice for your crab boats or lobster boats or whatever you're getting. And then you're going to play the next set of dice because you're going to go through this phase. Then you're possibly going to have a fishing phase, and then you can go to the next phase. So there's 2 different phases where you're going to roll 2 different dice. The first phase is you're rolling the dice based on your crab boats, and then you're basically marking off where you need, or I call them crab boats, but you have shrimp boats, you have tuna boats, you have different types of fishing boats. You're going to mark off your fishing boats. Once you get to a certain point, those boats can either give you a boat, which can start fishing for you, or you can get a license, which allows you to get special abilities later on as you're going. And so you're going to keep going there, so you might want to work on the shrimp, because the shrimp licenses can give you a special ability where you can use shrimp dice for anything else that you need to use it for. The cod dice will give you a little bit more money. If you roll a coin, you're just marking money off your board. There is just a lot going on over here. When you do all that, and then every other round you're going to have income phase where you're going to count up all the fish you're going to have a fishing phase where you're going to mark all your fish, and then every other round you're going to get an income phase, which you're going to get coins based off your income, and then you'll get some bonuses as well. And then when you go into the third round, you're going to be marking off basically the wharf. So the wharf will allow you to mark off buildings, which can give you more bonuses, or you can do a captain yacht boat, which will allow you to mark other stuff off, or you can mark off like the Inuit boats, which will give you more fishing boats, which can give you more points. So there's a lot of combo tastics that we're talking about once you start building other stuff. Like if you have a seafood buffet restaurant, now you're trying to mark off dice based off the fish mark. So now I can use it for my fish, like in the first round, if I go over here and use it for this, or that shrimp marks off over here. Now I'm adding shrimp to the market over there, which is going to give me more points at the end of the game. There's a lot of combo tastic on this. It's a lot of thinking. There's a lot of meaningful choice on this one. I like this game a lot, but it doesn't replace Fleet the card game. I really love how Fleet the card game is, so it's kind of like...
I think I agree with you on that, but I'm not arguing Fleet the card game. I'm arguing Quicks, possibly the simplest game that's on this entire one. Because all Quicks is, you have a sheet that has 4 rows of numbers, and there's 4 different colors. The top 2 are ascending order, so it's the numbers 2 through 12, and then the bottom 2 are descending numbers, so it's the numbers 12 through 2. On your turn, or on everybody's turn, everyone chooses the same set of dice, and or chooses a set of dice from them, and you're trying to have the most X's on your page. That's really all you're trying to do. The more X's, the better you do. And the way it works is pretty simple. You can only put an X on any numbers from left to right. So those 2 rows that are descending, once you've marked off, like, say, a 7, you have to go 6 or lower from that point on. No repeats, no nothing. On your turn, you roll all 6 dice, and then everyone, whoever the active player is, gets to choose one of the colored dice and add it to one of the white dice and mark off the corresponding color. So if I pick the blue die and add it to the white die, I mark off on the blue spot whatever number that ends up making it.
Is there a blue spot?
Something like
that was like red, green, yellow, something like that. I can't
remember
remember the colors.
We'll find out in a bit. But yeah, you get the idea. But like, you choose one of the colors and one of the white dice. Everyone else takes the 2 white dice and just simply marks off one of the tracks on there. So obviously, you're trying to stay as far left as you can, because you can never go back.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's functionally really about it.
You mark off an X that you did it, and the ones that you cannot go back to, you just draw a line through them. This way they know it's not a mark for you.
Yep, exactly. And then of course sometimes you might get penalties. There's a certain number of penalty points depending on if you just cannot put any more numbers. Let's say you put the last X and you're long before everybody else does, and you're going to get penalties before that. So it's a game of efficiency. Everyone has the same number of options, more or less, except for the active player gets a little bit of a bonus bump.
Yeah, that's how it always is usually in Roll and Rights.
Yep, exactly. So I like it. It works really well.
I forgot to mention that. It's Game Right.
And it's the original version was on a pad of paper. They've made an XL version, so you have a big old sheet so anybody can play.
Yeah.
And this is one of those infinite number of players that can play it.
My Quicks is actually sitting in my little containers. That's how small it is.
Yeah.
So you can put it in one of your photo containers for like your small games.
Yep.
In fact, I'm probably going to be taking my copy of Quicks with me when me and the wife go on our cruise in July.
Oh, and we need to start talking about what games we're bringing to Gamma to play.
We're going to be playing a lot of games in Gamma. I don't think we need to take it.
I don't think it'll be many. But we should definitely do Geek Out for the drive.
Yeah, possibly.
That one's fun. Anyway, yeah, if you have any other suggestions of games that you can play while driving, let me know in the comments below. No, not, well... Anyway, no, but between the two, I mean, agreed. This is also kind of difficult for us to discuss because the beauty and the simplicity between on Quicks just works incredibly well. Yeah. I mean, it's as complicated as Yahtzee is. It's
much
even
easier
simpler,
to play.
Right? Oh, easier to play. Yes.
I think art and production for me would go to Fleet the Dice game because it has the I can't think of the term now for some reason. My brain's on fire. Custom dice. There we go. Yeah. It has that. So and you got the 2 sheets.
Sure.
Decent enough. So yeah. Replay value, length of time and scaling well. Quicks can play an infinite number of players as long as you got a sheet.
Although the active player does have to rotate. So.
Well, no, I'm saying.
Right. I think it's limited to 6.
Yeah, it's limited to 6, but the age difference.
The fleet is like max 4, I think, right?
It's 4 or 5, if I remember correctly, because it's based on the dice. You're going to be pulling a die. The active player, who's the active player gets to take the first die, and then everybody else is left what's in between.
Yeah.
And then whatever dice is left over, everybody gets.
So it kind of works the same way. So like length of time is scaling well as quicks, but then at the same time, minimum number of plays is fleet.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm cool with calling replay value a wash.
Yeah, because then you go into the expandability. There's no expansions for either one of them.
No.
Yes, Fleet has but it came with the game. There, you can get a variant.
It's an included module. Yeah. So it doesn't really count.
It doesn't really count. Meaningful choice. I think for me that one is Fleet because that whole aspect, and the case in point when I'm talking about the dice part of it. Mm-hmm. As the active player, I take a dice. That's my dice. Whatever's left, everybody gets to choose. So when you're the last player, it's like, do I want to give you guys this? Because both these dice are going to do good for me. Do I want to be able to mark this off and give everybody that? Or do I just give everybody a coin?
Yeah.
And so it doesn't hurt the last player because they get the most impactful choice at the end of the round.
They get the only real choice, really. I mean, compared to quicks, for example, the active player gets to use a different set of dice, but really kind of it's all... Like, you just get what you get, and you just deal with it.
Yeah, and the thing is that it happens twice in a round.
Yeah.
You do it from this dice, and you do it from this dice. So it's like, now we're doing over here. Do I want to do a harbor motion, or do I want to do this? So I'm going to take this, because I'm going to get it, and then all of you are just basically getting a port, so mark one of your boats, that's fine. I'm going to do this instead.
Right.
So there is a much more meaningful choice, and what I like about it, because you don't really see this a lot, it's meaningful choice for the last player because he's determining what everybody else is going to get as well.
I agree with that.
For that round.
Meaningful choice, Fleet. Game immersion, I think, is also Fleet.
Yeah, I think so,
and
too.
I think art and production is
Fleet.
So Fleet the Dice game moves on.
Which I'm shocked about because I really do like Quicks a lot because it's the simplest of the games on here.
Yeah, it is. And I do prefer simple, but I mean, as far as graphic design goes, like Quicks has it because it's doesn't need extra symbology. It works very cleanly. So, with that being said, let's talk about the different ratios how many votes that the ones that got eliminated was. The first one was Rolling Realms.
Rolling Realms was at 3% of the vote.
Oof, that hurts. All right, the next one was Rajas of the Ganges.
Was at 2% of the vote.
Oof. The next one was Railroad Inc.
2% of the vote.
And the last one was Quicks.
3% of the vote.
And hello, Creative Chaos. Thanks for joining us. And we're going to be going into our semifinals round now. This will now be our That's Pretty Clever versus Roll Through the Ages, and Longshot the Dice Game versus Fleet the Dice Game.
I'm looking forward to this one.
I am too. Although this first one is going to hurt.
Oh, yeah.
Because these are probably the best two on here.
Yeah, this one is...
Yeah.
I already know who wins Ease of Play on this one.
Oh, yes. Very much. Very much.
All right, who's going?
All right, let's find out who will be our first debater in this round. That'll be me.
What's your language? You get Roll Through the Ages.
Roll Through the Ages. Okay. I'm going to say this right now. No other game on this list beats it for art and production.
Hands because down.
Those wooden boards, bar none, amazing. Even that's
Fleet's
pretty
custom
clever.
Dice. That's pretty clever.
But this has custom dice too.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, even if Fleet, because it also has the custom dice,
no
way it's going to touch it just because of those
wood boards, yeah. And that's
but custom dice versus custom dice. It's a wash. This one has wood boards.
yes, very nice wood boards. And those pegs are, man, they're just so satisfying.
Yeah.
Anyway, I need to stop talking about those because that's not what all the game is about. But the fact is, that part is not just a good, cool component. It's a basic function of the game that is what makes it work. See, the problem with a lot of roll and writes is the fact that everything you do when you write something down is permanent, otherwise you're erasing stuff. So how did they solve this problem? Oh, just give you a pegboard to keep track of the components that or the different materials that you are and are not using at the time.
You know what's funny? I have not seen... even flippin' rights don't do that either.
Very rarely.
Yeah.
Very rarely. And there's other games that have trackers to keep track of how many components you have. Mm-hmm. Like, say, any of the Tiny Epic games, right? They all have that.
Yeah.
And this... Like, they saw the design part of it. They're like, we're going to have to incorporate something like this. Maybe just like a token on a tray or something. And they're like, no, you know what? We can make really nice wooden boards. And that's important because as you're using those things up, like the food, you're going to be constantly doing that. If you were writing those down, you'd be writing, and it would immediately be frustrating.
You would need to use a pencil. I like to use pens when I'm doing stuff like that.
Exactly. I like the pens better because they're easier to see on the thing. Mm-hmm. Now, dry erase components, sure, that works. But again, erase, right, erase, right, erase, right. This was the most elegant solution and probably the coolest solution to that. But irregardless of that, this game is cool because you're fighting off different problems that you're going to have. You're trying to feed your people. Sometimes there could be disasters that happen with yours, like famine or disease and stuff, but where you're trying to build up your wonders during all through the ages, building up these different structures in different ways. It works incredibly well. The dice are custom, and they give you different kinds of resources. The same reason we get, like, Rajas of the Ganges. And I just think that, honestly, as good as you feel through That's Pretty Clever and how clever you do feel, yeah. I do feel like functionally this is a full game. Like, this... The fact that it's a roll and write is just a nature of it, but it's its own board game. You know, if you replaced the components, like the roll and write part of it with like just components, then it could be its own solid game. Oh wait, they did that.
Well,
Era did that, and they used that same functional system but put 3D buildings to that system. They changed a bit, but again, that's what I was saying. This is an actual game where a lot of roll and writes are just kind of like, it's a cool filler. It's a good way to pass the time.
The big thing about the roll and writes in general, a lot of them are just multiplayer solitaire aspect. Yes. The big hook of Gone Sean Clever, or That's Pretty Clever, is the fact that you're deciding what everybody else is going to use when you're not the active player. So, like, if I take these 3 dice, you guys don't get to use them unless you use a special power. That's it. That's the only player interaction, is you're deciding what they get to use. In this one, it's more along the lines, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. This is a functional game because if I take this, it could hurt you somewhere down the line.
True.
Or if I build up my military, that could hurt you down the line.
That's right.
So, yeah, I agree with you. Everything about Roll Through the Ages, the functionality and stuff like that. And That's Pretty Clever is a reason why it's the #1 game on Board Game Geek. Because of those combo-tastic aspects of it. Whereas, hey, if I take this 3 white here, I'm losing this 1 and 2. Yeah, I'm going to give you those choices. And that still leaves me enough dice for me to make other choices. And this 3 is exactly what I need to mark off the yellow, because I'm going to get my bonus action over here, which is going to allow me to mark this thing over here on the blue section. I'm going to get my bonus action over here and do all this. I love that combo-tastic of it. But even with all those combo-tastics of it, I don't know if the meaningful choice in this game is going to beat what Through the Ages does, or Roll Through the Ages.
I don't think it does. I personally don't. And again, I am biased. I do think that it's just a functionally better game.
Yeah.
But that's because the opportunity is there for it to expand, to do different versions, to give you that opportunity that you have to make some really hard choices. Do I go for the food? Do I go for this material instead? Do I go for just getting points?
Do this or this or this,
You have a lot of choices that you have to determine before you finish out the rest of that round.
Yeah.
I think that's huge.
I think so too. My thing, I do like what That's Pretty Clever is. It's one of my favorite roll and writes out there. The big thing for me with That Pretty Clever could have a possibility to go on. It's much easier to teach this game. It's much easier to play this game. And honestly, it's more than likely to get to the table than Roll Through the Ages, because it's like, hey, we're just going to do this. You're going to make some combos. You're not playing like a Civilization game with rolling dice.
Which sounds intimidating.
It really does.
Daunting. But then when you look at the page on That's Pretty Clever, that's intimidating.
It can be, yeah. You look at the pages like, oh, this and that. And I'm like, you're just going to mark off the number from the colored dice that you're going to write. That's all it is. I've taught this to people who don't... I've taught this to my grandma. I've taught this to my mom. They like this game. They don't like games in general, but I'll take this over for like a Christmas or something like that. Yeah. And they mark it off, and they're like, okay, this is fine. She's now 88 years old. Mm-hmm. My grandma will play this one. I can't say I could probably get them to play Roll Through the Ages.
Oh, no. Almost no chance. Yeah.
So, for me, this is the easiest game on the list, but I don't think it's going to beat anything anywhere else. Replay value, they're pretty much the same.
Yep. Now, we're using the Bronze Ages, but there is also
there's an Iron Age, yeah.
Which I do own both.
I've only played the Bronze Age. I've never played the Iron Age. So, and even if we have...
Functionally very simple.
If we've played both of these, a Bronze Age would have been number one because it was higher rated out of all those things. But like I said, I don't think Pretty Clever is going to beat it in the other four categories. It's not going to win art and production. Nope. It's not going to win meaningful choice because there's just a lot more meaningful choice. Maybe,
there is no theme.
And replay value is meh. Game immersion, maybe, just because, as you were mentioning, the combo-tastic, but you really get into, like, I need to feed my people, so I got to make sure those food dice are still there.
And when a famine happens, and all that stuff. And you can also, some of the buildings that you've built will give you bonuses and buffs to help mitigate that. Yeah, man, you're making me want to play this.
Yeah, I kind of want to play it.
All right, Roll Through the Ages moves on. Knocking out our number 1 seed.
And we'll get onto that when we get there.
All right. The next one is Long Shot the Dice Game versus Fleet the Dice Game. And here we go. I'll be starting us off this one.
What else is new? I think you've done it the entire...
No, you got the first. Fourth round. Fourth round.
Yeah, I got the fourth round. You get Fleet the Dice Game.
Okay, what you said earlier. No, I mean, like... And I don't want to downplay the fact that I just forgot how to play it, but you and me played it at the same time, and I don't remember a single thing about Fleet the Dice Game, and I don't know what that says about the gameplay itself.
You also do remember Fleet the Card Game a lot more.
Yeah, to an extent. Yeah, I remember
because of the multi-use cards.
Sure, yeah. But no, I do remember, the different buildings that you build up, all of the different components. I do remember those are very pretty dice.
Yeah, they're really very, nice dice,
very pretty dice. And how you have the 2 different pages. One thing leads to the resources, which lets you build the other stuff, which lets you expand from there.
Yeah.
Those are great. But between the two, I mean, honestly, it's hard for me to argue this side. Because, yes, those choices that you make, like, I determine what I get, you guys pick from the rest, is always fun. That is unlike a lot of the others. But that stands above. A lot of these higher-ranked roll and write games use that mechanism because... then you suddenly have player interaction.
Yeah.
And your choices do matter then at that point. Not only just for what you're trying to benefit yourself, but also what you're trying to prevent other people from gaining access to. Yeah, Creative Chaos, it happens. There's a couple of games I just don't remember.
You don't even remember the other game that I'm about to talk about. So.
Oh, I remember Long Shot the Dice Game, sure. Okay. Yeah, that was great. That was way fun.
I will say this. As much how nice Fleet the Dice Game's custom dice are, and those sheets are really good, this game comes with these chunky pieces that you actually move around the board like a horse racing aspect of the game, because you're using one die is basically moving the horse. Yep. The other die is what you're marking off, which means that, hey, if this horse moves, then I could probably move this horse as well.
Yep.
I love a lot of the combo-tastic out of this game. I mean, Fleet the Dice Game is fine. I love that game. I do enjoy it. I'm glad I own it. I would prefer to play Fleet the card game more than the dice game.
Well, we don't know if we would want to play Long Shot the board
everything game. I've heard, I don't want to touch Long Shot the board game compared to this one.
That's true.
But for Long Shot the Dice Game, I'm going to give a sound argument on this one. It is much easier to teach this game rather than Fleet the Dice Game. Sure. There's a lot of moving parts in the Fleet the Dice Game. So ease of play for me, hands down, is this one. Plus, if I go to someone and be like, do you want to play a game, roll and write game where you're moving horses and basically simulating a horse track, or do you want to be crab fisherman? What do you think more people are going to pick?
Down here in New Mexico, probably horse racing. Probably.
Out of those two, which one would excite you more?
Me, personally?
Crab fishing or horse racing?
Actually, probably crab fishing. I mean, horse racing is pretty mundane unless it's, ready, set, bet. But Yeah, man, that's hard.
And all you're doing really
I get your argument.
Long shot the dice game, when you're basically teaching the game too, you're just marking cards. You're not having to worry about if I do this, then I can go over here do this, or worrying about two different sets of dice that you're going to. So you have all that aspect of that.
Fate of Chaos would choose crabs.
I will even say this: there is much more meaningful choice in Fleet the Dice game.
Yeah,
much more.
I do agree with that. Yep.
Yeah, because of just the way this works, because you have to be smart of how you're doing it, and then you get a die to start with, so that basically is giving you a setup, and it's like, now when I get to choose, do I want to keep building the ship that I already have, whether it's the shrimp or the cod or any of those other boats, or do I want to start another boat to try to build up to another license? This way I can start, getting more fish in, because that's going to be a lot of my points. It's going to give me my income, stuff like that. So it's how you do that little push and pull, where this one you're more beholden to the dice roll.
Yep.
When you're not really too fleet, you're beholden to the dice roll. But you're also beholden to how other people are taking those dice too. So if I'm the third person in a 4-player game, there's already 2 dice taken away from me. So now what do I do? What do I build up? So there's not really a lot of arbitrary choices in a roll and write game when it comes to fleet, where there can be in Long Shot the Dice game. Sure. But when it comes to the game immersion, I feel more of the horse racing aspect, because you're like really wanting your horse to start moving, and sometimes I don't get the choice to move the horse because I'm rolling that die and it's telling me I'm moving this horse. I don't want to move that horse. I want to move that horse. But if I mark this off on my card over here, when that horse moves, I can move this horse as well. So it does certain things that I like a lot on that aspect. So for me, I think Long Shot the Dice game moves on.
Okay.
And the reason being, I think it's easier to play. There's a couple mini expansions in there, but I think that there's more game immersion in this one. The art and production's better on this one.
Yep.
So that's the 3 right there. I think they're both replay value for me is a wash, and I think there's a little bit more game immersion or meaningful choice in Fleet the Dice game. But other than that, I think Long Shot moves on.
I 100% agree with you. For everything you said, and again, I really do think that and it always worries me when, like, how impactful can a game be if we didn't play it really that long ago? Mm-hmm. It was within the last year, I think, and I genuinely do not remember any part of it.
It was last summer.
Yeah, a game should be more memorable than that, and not to downplay it. Like, I remember I had a legitimately fun time.
Yeah,
but I don't remember how it works anymore, and how good of a game can it be where you just forget that badly?
Well, we just played this one. We played this one more recently than that one, so.
Oh, sure.
Because I think we played that in like October or something like that.
Yeah, the other one was I remember June. That. But the last time I've played stuff like, Quicks or even Roll Through the Ages was years ago. Yeah. And I remember that.
I think the last time I played Roll Through the Ages is when I was living in my old place when you brought it over, and I think it was you, me, and Jim.
Right. And I remember more about that game than I do about
Fleet the Dice game, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe say that to my memory, but it's just...
You just have a bad memory, so...
Well, that's a big knock on it, in my opinion. and that was hard for me to explain how good it was. In fact, I even looked up a picture of it earlier, too, when you were talking about it. Just going, what can I remember about this? And just trying to explain... in case I got that argument, which clearly didn't help. No. So let's talk about the games that were eliminated. How much vote did That's Pretty Clever get?
That's Pretty Clever was our highest vote getter. So the people were agreeing with Board Game Geek, and it was at 17% of the vote.
That's tough. And then Fleet the Dice game.
Actually got a little love compared to our last eliminations. It was sitting at 6% of the vote, which is saying something. We actually had a lot of votes this time around. I believe we had 98 votes.
98 votes, yeah. It's pretty significant. All right. So this final round, we are not going to pick sides. We're just going to argue out the differences between the two. And this is going to be Long Shot the Dice game versus Roll Through the Ages. Daniel, is there any of those that are immediately stand out to you?
Oh, yeah.
Which one?
Easy Play.
Production. Oh.
Easy Play is Long Shot. Art Production is Through the Ages.
Yes. Okay. I agree with that. Easy Play, Long Shot, Art Production, Roll Through the Ages. Cool. All right. So now we have game immersion and meaningful choice and replay value. Okay.
Meaningful choice for me is Roll Through the Ages.
I do agree with that. And not to say that there's not meaningful choice in long shot. This is probably the second most meaningful game that we have on the list by far. Now,
I will say this. I know we already said that the art production for goes to Roll Through the Ages, but I have to say they didn't skimp out on the production value in long shot.
Although it does get difficult when all those are next to each other. You can't see the sides.
Yeah. No, I get
minor detail.
No.
Did you Sharpie that? Or is
that's on the game.
Okay, good on them. Well done. Perplexed.
Yeah, you don't. I didn't show it to the camera, but they have the number written on the very top of it too. So.
Good on them. All right. So, but yeah, Fleet the Dice game still, or like Roll Through the Ages.
Yeah. No, but I say that is a smart thing. Like on graphic design alone, that would mark it there.
Yep, absolutely. Cool. All right. So now we're down to replay value or game immersion. Here's the thing. Between the two. Replay value makes the most sense for us to talk about right now. There is other versions of Roll Through the Ages. There's the Bronze Age and there's the Iron Age, both that do a little bit differently. I know we said that we're only talking about the Bronze Age, but because of that, that is essentially an expansion between it. They're expandable.
No, if we weren't counting,
they are compatible.
Oh, they are compatible.
They are compatible.
I'm like, if we're not counting for a Clever Cube and stuff like that.
The way that they're compatible is that the vast majority of the components on one are usable in the other one. They just have different pads of paper. So I mean, like they're basically like it's like
taking a ride, compatible. That's just
that's no. You could have one person playing one pad and one playing the other. You could. It's not good, but you could do it.
Yeah.
It's not that.
That's a stretch if I ever heard one.
Yeah, it is. But that's more than Long Shot can say.
That is true. But you can. There is a mini expansion in there, but it's a module.
True. But also that is capped at 4 players for Roll Through the Ages.
Oh yeah, it's
capped. Long Shot
is 6, I believe.
Yeah, 6 or 8, right? I think 6.
5.
Okay, so one more.
2 to 5.
I don't know that one is necessarily shorter than the other.
Long Shot's much shorter than Through the Ages. Or Roll Through the Ages. It is. We played that in 30 minutes. I have the timer to prove it.
Okay. I think that's about what I played Roll Through the Ages.
Last time we played Roll Through the Ages was like almost an hour. I remember that because I was like, for a roll and ride, this is... Because that shocked me because it was the longest roll and ride I played at that time. This is before I played Hadrian's Wall.
So are you arguing replay value goes to Long Shot?
I say replay value is Long Shot.
Alright, fair enough. So now it's down to...
Game immersion?
Yeah, 2 and 2, isn't it?
Yeah.
Game immersion. Okay, so the question is, which one provides the promise that it's offering? I'm kind of harking back to Level 99's book of game design, right?
Yeah.
I feel game immersion. Which one promises what you're doing? Like, so
both do you do it really well?
Yeah. Do you feel like you're building a civilization on Roll Through the Ages, versus do you feel like you're in a horse race during Long Shot? They both do it really well. They really do.
Yeah.
There are some thematic things that are like, it's questionable on both.
Yeah.
But okay, so which one is fun to lose? I think they're both fine to lose.
Yeah, I think they're both fine to lose on that one.
Which one has more player interaction? Table talk? Probably Long Shot.
I was going to say Long Shot because I remember there was a point where we were yelling at Gamehead Geek because he moved the wrong horse for
Well, and not only that, it's like, hey, stop moving that horse. Stop it. Stop it, sir. I know you're rolling that, but no.
Don't roll that. Roll better. Yeah. Come on. You rolled
I bet on this horse for a reason.
You rolled that 3 times in a row. Come on, man.
That's fair. So,
or like I remember this on Long Shot because you were the one that rolled it 3 times in a row. It's like we were calling you out as a magician. You were using.
It's true. And so the real question is: do you remember memorable stand-up moments in Civilization or in Roll Through the Ages?
There was one when I had a famine.
When you had the famine, that's pretty exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, but a lot more in that one.
A lot more in that. Yep, I agree.
I am shocked with this one. I'm also shocked that Roll Through the Ages made it this far. This is the oldest game on the list. I think it was 2008 when it came out.
Yeah. I mean, Quicks might be older, but not by much.
I'll check that out later, like when we're doing the pre-show. But yeah, that was impressive. Long Shot is our number 1 roll and write game.
That's right. So congratulations to Perplexed Games for publishing Long Shot the Dice game. The dice game version of the board game that nobody does talk about anymore.
I don't even think Perplex did the board game. I think it was a different company.
Yeah, so. it was a different company.
I remember when we saw this originally, though, too. Long Shot the Dice game. We saw it at Gamma. They were just pushing it 2022.
Yep.
I thought it was kind of neat. We were both like, okay, this looks kind of cool. And then we finally got to play it last year. Yeah, a year later.
It was pretty good. All right, so if you ever want to reach out to us directly. Oh, yes.
The vote.
Oh, yes, the stats. All right, well, how many?
Long Shot the Dice game had 9% of the vote, which was our winner. And Roll Through the Ages was at 2% of the vote, one of our lowest vote getters. So if it was a wash and went to a tie, it still would have been Long Shot.
Long Shot, that's right. So if you ever want to email us directly, you certainly can. We have a direct email. So if you want to join in on future contests, reach out and give us ideas for future episodes that you might have, or just to say hello, you can email us at everydayboardgames2020@gmail.com. And now we even have an Instagram. We're getting up there, guys. Come check out our Instagram. It's instagram.com/everydayboardgames. Come check us out. Follow us. Get the promotions doing, and especially now because right before Gamma, we're going to be posting a lot of stuff about it.
As well as all video re-uploads are found on YouTube under youtube.com at Everyday Board Games Podcast. And if you like what we do, there are 3 things you can do to help us grow on the platform. Subscribe if you're not. Like the video down and comment down below and tell us your thoughts on the subject.
All right, and if you ever want to join us on a live episode, like our friend Fox Hugh or Creative Chaos, we stream almost every week at twitch.tv/everydayboardgames, and join in on our debate and post your comments about what you think about what the topic that we're talking about.
As well as all audio versions can be found on most podcast platforms under Everyday Board Games Podcast. This includes Spotify, Google, Amazon Music, Podbean, and Apple.
And we want to thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I've been your host, Daniel.
And I've been your host, Daniel.
And we want to thank you for listening to Everyday Board Games.
And remember, every day is a good day for board gaming.